and declarations of conflicts of interest, please.
Councilmember Abram, here and none. Councilmember Bixel,
Here and yes on 5J.
okay. Vice Mayor Franco,
Here and no conflicts.
Councilmember Moniz.
Here and none.
Mayor Bublak.
Here and none. Thank you. All right. Approval of agenda as posted or amended.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. We call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram,
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco.
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz.
Yes.
Mayor Bublak.
Yes, passes 5-0. Thank you for that. Our first of two presentations, Director Sims, Love Turlock. Does this mean you're moving to Turlock?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. Tonight we have a presentation on Love Turlock. They're going to do a recap of the April 29th projects that were done. With us, we have Miss Lindsay Plitt and Holly Evans.
And you have our video to start with, right?
Yes.
Oh, good, we have it this time. So before we'll share a few things at the end, but we just have a little recap video for everyone to enjoy. So this year we had over 500 volunteers give their time, which amounted to over 1,500 hours of volunteer work throughout the city. This day represents all the great work that was completed, but it also represents the unity and encourages our community and makes us a better and safer city. I love every single project that we have, but I definitely had a couple of favorites that were new this year that I wanted to just mention. We had a large group go over to Sun Garden Mobile Home Village, which is on across the street from Donnelly Park. A really area that really needed a lot of love. They were super grateful, and so many wonderful things happened at that project. We also had a family that needed a wheelchair ramp built, and so that was a really great project we did this year as well. So we have an updated banner to present you with today. You can add it to the other one if you want. We'd love to cover the hallway with our banner someday. I'm gonna grab one.
Right.
So it represents just many of the people who came and served that day and what they love about Turlock. And so we hope that it is just an encouragement to anyone that walks the hallways.
Dana?
We're super thankful for all of your support. Many of you came and gave of your time, and we really appreciate that. And so we hope that you will be there again next year. Mark your calendars for April 27th next year. And keep in mind if you have any projects in your districts, because we will be reaching out to you at the beginning of the year for some ideas. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you guys.
All right, for our next presentation, we have Turlock Downtown Property Owners Association, the TDPOA, presentation on a new proposed Property and Business Improvement District, PBID, for the years 2023 through 2033. Presenting tonight, we have Mr. Travis Regallo, the Downtown Director for the TDPOA, and Ms. Carson Lambeth, a consultant from Civitas.
Perfect. Should have added music to it.
What the hell?
All right, guys, I'm Travis Regallo. I'm the director of the Turlock Downtown Property Owners Association. We're the association that oversees the PBID, the Turlock PBID, which is a Property and Business Improvement District. Ours was originally established in '98. It was a term that when they, if you guys remember, they ripped up the sidewalk from they ripped up the road from building to building, all dirt, and it was a huge revitalization grant that helped revitalize downtown Turlock, and it's overseen and done through the PBID process. This is the year where we are rewriting the PBID. It's a 10-year contract. It will be from 2023 to 2033 if it is approved. The benefits of the TDPOA, of course, include maintenance, sidewalk, repair, irrigation, direct contact, special project coordinator, collaborative express interest, trees and flowers, debris removal, downtown collaborative marketing, business owners committee and events, which we have a very strong business owners committee that's been enacted since COVID, reestablished, so we're very proud of that. We work hand in hand with the businesses downtown. Banner program, 4th of July celebrations, all the American flags that you see downtown, the downtown music, the holiday celebrations and decor, and of course the Festival of Lights. Our proposed PBID will be an initial assessment budget of $370,000. It's a huge increase to what we were at currently. Currently we're at $154,000. So we are proposing a huge increase to help with the deferred maintenance of downtown, and also to actually focus on the business improvement part of the Property and Business Improvement District. To try to take care of some of the things that weren't necessarily problems when the PBID was first founded, some of the tree maintenance and vagrancies that we have downtown. Can everyone hear me okay? Sorry. I just want to point out too on that last one, if you take a look at the map, I provided the council members with maps as well. All the orange is the existing PBID. In this PBID, in order to help maintain or to increase the budget for maintenance, we have expanded the PBID to what you see as the blue zones. So we're trying to reach out and as fairly as possible increase the budgets to take care of the maintenance that everyone benefits from downtown. The blue properties we've seen utilize a lot of the landscapes and materials and parking lots that were previously paid for by the PBID, the current PBID. Clean and Safe program is a program that we're looking to enact in the new PBID. It includes the cleaning of the sidewalks, which have never been done, the potential ambassadors program, seasonal securities, some security features, signage and waypoints additional to what the city has currently. There's some waypoint signs that point where City Hall is and the police station, and actually it doesn't even point where the police station is, but it does point where the historical museum is. We'd like to add some signage that might promote where the free public parking is, some things like that. Additional sidewalk cleanings for the sidewalk, for the blocks that might need additional cleaning, and of course the cleaning the benches of downtown, which has been an issue before. This is probably the biggest thing that we're doing, working hand in hand with the businesses in the future. This is where a lot of the increasement will go besides maintenance. Of course, the promotion of downtown, the digital marketing, the banner program, and our chamber memberships. We utilize a lot of the local businesses, Turlock Direct and Turlock City News and the Journal to promote the downtown, as well as online to outside communities. Irrigation repairs is part of the increase of the maintenance that happens downtown. I gave you guys some printed out slides. There are a couple slides that we're going to be skipping over, so if you get confused, just go to the next page, because we want to keep it kind of short for this presentation. If you guys have any questions, feel free to stop me. Irrigation repairs. The normal wear and tear for these systems when we first enacted the P-bid was very minimal, and it's still fairly minimal. Unfortunately, we have a lot of abuse that happens in the downtown corridor, and then emergency repairs on them. They get a little pricey. As you can see, there's the flooded alleyway there, and then ironically, our tree roots are growing up into our flower pots, and that's why if you walk downtown, you can see some of the flower pots are shifted and kind of wonky. Our flower pots are we work in partnership with the Turlock Garden Club, so we do partner with a lot of local organizations to try to keep Turlock as beautiful as we can. The Garden Club is one of our greatest assets. It does cost us. We just pay for the plants about $1,000 to $1,500. They plant twice a year, keeping Turlock fresh. We are working on ways to enhance that, working with potential local schools and to get more for the money here. The maintenance. This is the other greatest unforeseen thing that we are including in the drastic increase of the P-bid is the maintenance that came. A lot of the trees maintenance, some of it was foreseen, some of it was unforeseen. As soon as the trees started overgrowing the electrical boxes and lifting up their square cement boxes that hold the trees in place. As soon as that started happening, our maintenance budget that we had budgeted in original P-bid was kind of out the window. So unfortunately, we were shot in the foot before we even left the gate on some of these issues. So we're just trying to take care of them in the future. And then painting the light poles is something that's been another item that's been deferred. In the new P-bid, we have a way here for making sure that some of the maintenances downtown are taken care of. And I just want to point out in this proposed program, we are trying to take some of the obligations off of the city, but giving the city the authority to say, hey, these need to get done, and then allow us to go out and get them done within a timely manner. In the previous P-bids, when city staff changes over or when the directors change over, sometimes there's things that get skipped, or it gets a project gets going and then it falls on the way because someone changes positions. We found that this ideally will be a more efficient way to make sure that the projects get attended to, and allow the city to have the authority behind that. Sidewalk repairs. Another major expense as you walk downtown. There's some major sidewalk repairs. We estimated that it's about $200,000 behind in maintenance that's needed. We put together a program that should address all of these issues, and then prepare as we fix those issues. More issues will establish, so this will get us back on track. Parking lot, public parking lot slurry. In this new P-bid, we would take over the parking lot slurry of all the public parking lots and the painting. Of course, it would be under the direction of the city, but it would be done every 5 to 7 years, depending on how they were needed. We have on there too. It would cost us roughly 20 to 25 cents per square foot for slurring plus the painting of the stripes, and then we have rough quotes from $46,000 to $75,000 to do all 10 of the public parking lots downtown. The assessment rates of the proposed assessment rates, I see that some of it got a little wonky there on the screens as we transferred it over. The existing P-bid is there on the left. That's what everyone is paying now, 38 cents for the first floor square footage. And then That's what it started out in 2013. It's now currently 43 cents for a budget of 154,000. It had an optional adjustment of 2.5%. The proposed P-bid would raise the assessments to around 46 cents per square foot of the first floor, but it would also encompass any undeveloped lands on the property at 10 cents a square foot. So how it's written is 10 cents a square foot of lot size and 36 cents a square foot on the first floor. This also allows us to take care of the lots that are vacant or empty or used as parking lots in the downtown district that still have a significant frontage of sidewalk and trees. That's the maintenance aspect of it. Previously, we weren't they weren't paying anything in assessment, so they would be contributing. The blue zones would be introduced to the P-bid at half the assessment of the existing P-bid at 5 cents and 18 cents. And then we're asking for the city parking lots to be $1 square foot. That would help us to maintain pay for the maintenance of the parking lots, the blowing and the tree maintenance and everything that's deferred here. And then we would have an optional that would be the option up to 5% increase as requested for those assessments. We have the proposed budget here, the first 2023 to 2024 budget that we have itemized here that we feel would address all the issues, plus give all the maintenance issues that may have been deferred, plus give the benefit to the downtown corridor, the businesses, and to Turlock as a whole for keeping our investment in Turlock successful, and the revitalization grant that was originally a $21 million grant that the federal government has cut all of those programs, so it may never happen again. We want to keep those investments in a solid state and not, I don't know if you guys remember what downtown Turlock used to look like before some of these, but it wasn't always as beautiful as it is today. Maintenance obligations, we separated out here. The main difference is the parts that are not in bold are what is current in the current P-bid. What we're proposing here in change would be added in the bold sections. So we're asking for the city to be in a partnership with us on the community events, the additional labors fees accrued from major events like 4th of July, Festival of Lights, Christmas Parade, and then of course we would still do all the applications and permits for those. We're just asking for that partnership. And then as you can see, the normal that you guys do in the existing P-bid. And then in the future P-bid, what the TDPOA would take on in responsibility would be the slurry seal of the parking lots and striping, the maintenance of the planted areas in the parking lots, the blowing of the city parking lots, the painting of the light poles, in partnership with the city. Of course, because we want to make sure that it's in a timely manner, and that if there's any other maintenances that need to be done on the light poles, we can do collaboratively. Sidewalk washing, additional signage, and then our Clean and Safe program, which is what we feel is very beneficial to the downtown Turlock businesses and Turlock as a whole, especially with some of the issues that we may be facing here relatively quickly with some of the other pilot programs that may be going on. The slurry seal, one of the benefits of us taking it over is that we're going to be able to coordinate that with existing property owners in the downtown corridor. So if the slurry seal is getting done, we can try to make it a continuity from all of downtown and get with the property owners well in advance to get any projects that may need to be done where they're ripping up any asphalt, get those done before we slurry them, so there's not a brand new parking lot getting destroyed. And then also any property owners that may want to have their property slurried as well can all get done at once, so that it's nice, healthy, vibrant, and beautiful all the way down. Potentially what would happen if the council was to vote no for a P-bid, these would be what we would lose. A no vote would mean that the P-bid would not renew and the current TDPOA would dissolve. Some of the maintenance would defer to the city, be the responsibility of the city, deferred if unfunded, or would probably go to the property owners and the city, private entities are. We would lose weed control, irrigation repair, paver repair. Property owners would be responsible for the sidewalk and landscape trees around their parcel. The loss of the current business owners committee, which I feel would be detrimental. No Independence Day activities, no American flags downtown, no Festival of Lights, no banner programs, no holiday decorations, no downtown marketing, loss of uniformity and continuity throughout the downtown, no music, loss of united voice for the downtown district, and no clean and safe or clean team. Now, of course, some of these programs may be picked up, but currently what we have existing would be lost, and then we'd be hoping that volunteer programs come and pick some of these obligations up. So what we're going to be asking from the city is the partnership and the assessment, the major event commitment, and then the assigned liaison, which we currently had a assigned liaison in the previous PBID, but we just want to make sure that that goes forth in the future. It helps us give us one point of contact when we have any issues with the downtown corridor to make sure that everything is streamlined and that there's no confusion or miscommunication with the process of the downtown. And then historically, they would always come to our TDPOA meetings every month to make sure that everything was up to date, whether it was from the city to the TDPOA or the TDPOA to the city. And then, of course, the next steps I'm going to have Carson explain. These are more the legal processes, and this is what we would be requesting to make this in a timely manner.
Great. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and city staff. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm here to talk a little bit about the legal process and the next steps and what we're hoping to have happen in the next couple of weeks. In order to renew the district, we need to be done to be able to make it on the tax rolls. If we don't make it on the tax rolls, we would have to ask for hand billing, which is something that the TPDOA would be willing to do. But so for tonight, what we're asking is that at the next June 27th council hearing, that council would approve the assessment proposal, review the management district plan, and approve TDPOA to hand bill assessments if it becomes necessary. We were able to request with the Board of Supervisors for a late submission for tax rolls. So we do have until August 30th if we're able to make that deadline. And so at that June 27th meeting, we would also be asking to approve holding a special meeting on August 29th for a public hearing and counting of ballots, as well as on the 27th, we would ask if you approve this assessment proposal, that you would approve the city manager signing the petition and the ballot. So those would be the asks for the 27th meeting. At that point, at the after the 27th meeting, we would finalize the management district plan and engineer's report. We have given you a draft management district plan, so you could take a look at that. Once finalized, the TDPOA and their board members would go out and ask their property owners to sign a petition in support of the district. And legally, they need to get over 50% of those paying the assessment to sign in support, and it is weighted by how much they pay in assessment. So you can see that the city's vote would be a very important vote in that. We would then ask for the resolution of intention to renew the district with approval from City Council on the July 11th City Council meeting. It can be on the consent agenda. And then Civitas will work with the TPDOA to mail the ballots. And there is a legal requirement that the ballots get mailed to all of the owners. And you have 45 days from the date that the ballot is mailed to the public hearing. And so during that time, people would return their ballots. We notice the public hearing. And then we would have the special meeting on August 29th to approve the district and to count the ballots, as long as there's no majority protests. And therefore, we'd be able to submit the tax rolls for the August 30th deadline that we have. That would be obviously the preference instead of hand billing, just because you have a much better rate of return to collect those. So great.
That's basically our presentation there. I know that some of the asks there on the timelines might be a little hard to reach because we are pushing. That's just our goal because it makes it a lot easier to get on this year's tax roll. As Carson explained, if you're not on the tax roll, it's a lot harder to collect some of those assessments. So that's why we're trying to push those dates. So, was there any questions on
Questions? But,
I have
okay.
a question for,
Carson?
actually,
Anthony?
Isaac. What did Turlock currently pay per year?
For our current assessment, I can look that up. I'll have to, can I get right back to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
In the meantime, can you elaborate a little bit more on what the Clean and Safe program is? Because I see it's, 10% of your budget, so what's happening with those?
Yes. So there it is. The biggest part of that is the cleaning of downtown. We're going to be partnering. Well, the goal is to partner with local organizations to help us with that. Helping Hands would be a big part of that, and they currently help us with the Business Owners Committee. So it would be cleaning the feces, the urine, the dumpster enclosures, the needles. Those are programs that the city does not currently have. So that would be the key part of it. And then of course pressure washing, cleaning the downtown, which has never been done, cleaning the downtown as a whole. And then we wanted it to incorporate, if you see some asterisks on there, those would be potential things that we would partner with the Business Owners Committee to decide what do businesses need, what would help them out the most, whether it be additional security during holiday times. That was a concern that they had voiced previously, ambassador programs, or of course additional signage. We can utilize our banner programs for some of those signages, so there would be no added infrastructure. It would just be adding the banners to our poles. So of course, I would say the main part of that is the cleaning and the safe aspect of washing and the benches and the urine and needles.
Any other questions? All right, I'm going to open it to I'm sorry, Mr. Wilson.
I have an answer to Councilmember Franco's question.
Isaac's working on it right now, but I do.
It's about $135,000.
That's what our current portion
right.
is.
Okay. Go ahead and have a seat. Open it to the public. Anyone wishing to speak regarding this item? I think I had one. Lori Smith.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and public. My name's Lori Smith. I've been in the downtown area for about 27 years. First as a vendor, then employee, then manager, and most recently a business owner. For many years, I took our downtown for granted. One day, I was sitting in my car at the corner of Golden State and Main, and it finally clicked what a great thing we had going downtown, and I was excited to be a part of it. We are so fortunate that those before us had the foresight and planning to make downtown what it is today. We're also very fortunate in that almost all of our building owners are from Turlock. They see the value in what the TDPOA does. It's kind of like owning your own house. You value it and care for it more than a renter would. We also have a fantastic group of business owners, which you mentioned, and I have the privilege of working with them. They are absolutely committed to the success of our downtown. The customers that we have, we're getting new customers all the time. Just last week, I had a woman from Santa Cruz that had discovered our downtown. She went home, told some friends, brought those friends back. They spent the day shopping and dining. We get stories like that a lot. People driving, over the hill. Downtown is unique in Turlock. It's the heart of our city. It's where memories are made. It's where community gatherings happen with our parades, our holiday kickoffs, and our events. We have a great downtown, but yes, it absolutely can be better. The last P-bid was written 10 years ago, and many things have changed since then. Costs on everything have skyrocketed. Vagrancy and cleanliness issues have definitely increased. Trees have gotten larger and need much more maintenance. The TDPOA operates really on what I consider a very small, bare bones budget. There is no fluff. For those of that you don't know, the TDPOA is also a nonprofit. Everything stays downtown. I hope that everyone here can see the importance of what the TDPOA does, and keeping up the continuity and momentum of what we have going. It's a great thing. I truly feel that a no vote would be detrimental to our downtown. If I have time left, the museum, we're having an event at the Carnegie on June 27th. It's free to the public. We'll have goodies. It's at 7. It's motorcycling in California's Central Valley. It was a book that was written. The author will be there, so it's free.
Shameless. All right. All right. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? You do know we're not voting tonight, so if you're asking for a vote, just, yes. Mr. Boucher.
It's always way up there.
Dang it.
Where you want it, Harry.
I thank you. Well, believe it or not, I was here for the first PBID. And
Whoa.
yeah, that's many, many years ago. I tell you what, a lot of people worked awful hard, spent a lot of their own money. I can remember we had a drawing for a motorcycle, Harley. I had to pay for the motorcycle to get it down there. But luckily we sold enough tickets to pay me back. We didn't make any money, but I did get paid back. So a lot of people work very hard. I would tell you that right now, this town is drawing people. In the month of May, we have a POS system where we can track customers. We had 282 new customers in the month of May. They came from Patterson, from Los Banos. They didn't just come to drop off their dry cleaning, they came to enjoy the downtown. And they tell us that. I mean, we have from Livingston, I was so shocked, Houston, Denair, Oakdale. And so what is produced for in the realm of taxes is huge. I mean, I see so many businesses downtown that are doing well. Some aren't, some are. But that tax money, of course, goes to you. So, you.
My Bro.
I'm just kidding. Goes to her.
Sarah.
Anyway, that's what I have to say. It's really important that we maintain downtown. One other point, when we did the original PBID, we reduced our parking. I talked to Joe Bonander the other day, and it seemed like 40%. But that was understood that in the near future, we would have a parking garage or a city parking lot that would accommodate these people. I mean, it's aggravating. You want to park in downtown Turlock? It ain't happening. So we need to do that before we go back the way it was. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, we're going to close the public comment. Mr. Wilson, what are you thinking? We're close with the vote, yeah. Go ahead.
Mayor and council members, I'm thinking that there's a lot of information here. There's a really short timeline for us to get all that stuff done. I think there's a variety of points that need to be negotiated in terms of their proposal. And so my suggestion is that you direct me to negotiate with the P-bid and come back to the council as soon as we can and present for you what we think is a fair deal for both parties. That's
Okay.
my suggestion.
Comments, questions, agreements?
Yeah, I have a comment. You know, I hear and see a lot of business owners here that I know, and I agree that our downtown is special, and it is the site of a lot of community involvement, and I think that, you know, that public-private partnership that has been developed over so long is very important. I do have some concerns about, you know, looking at the numbers of it, especially as, you know, tonight we're talking about our budget, and that extra $154,000 is not yet accounted for. So I would like to, you know, support going back to negotiating with the TDPOA, and seeing if some of these items, such as, you know, maintenance of our city-owned parking lots and the blowing of our parking lots, if that's something that we can take on more with our own staff, if we can cost that out and see where we can come together on those things.
Any other thoughts, or are we in agreement?
12,000 is what we budgeted for this fiscal year.
12,000.
For the For the
You're
property
missing
tax
some
assessment.
zeros, Mr.
Yeah.
Moreno.
So you got 9,700 for the Turlock, or the city hall, and then for
Right.
the property on 144 South Broadway, 1,300.
Thank you. Okay. Just, we're not doing a vote, but is there opposition to letting the city manager work with the downtown and come back? No. Okay, then you have your marching orders, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, awesome. Thank you guys for coming. Okay, next is public participation. This time set aside for the public to speak on regard of things that are not on the agenda. I do have 2 cards, and one of them is Lorraine. Hi.
I've been up here several times. I've lived in Turlock for the last 7, 8 years. I want to thank our police department and everyone who's involved with getting our park back. I couldn't believe it the first time I heard children playing out there. The families are coming out, they're barbecuing again. And there was an issue with the gazebo, but now because I watched, the homeless would come in there, put all their stuff on it, and they weren't sharing. And the last couple times, it's been families, not the homeless. So I want to thank you. My concern, I have several questions for you. Do you work for us? I believe you do. And the other city council meeting, when everybody was coming up here and saying no to homeless housing, y'all said yes. Why? What do the homeless do for you? They make us afraid in our homes. My neighbor down the street at 8 o'clock at night, not late at night, 8 o'clock, had a man banging and screaming and yelling at her door. Luckily, her husband was home, and they have a peek hole, and he peeked through. And the guy said, your neighbor is beating me up. He's beating me up, and so the police were called. And they came out, and the guy was having an issue. Clearly, he was not arrested. He has a right to refuse ambulance help, which he did. Where did he go? In our community. I have a neighbor around the corner from me. She's a widow. She's terrified to come outside because of her proximity where her home is. She has a note on it, don't solicit. She was having people banging on her door all hours of the night. Is that what we want, to live like that in Turlock? Do we want our businesses downtown to have to clean up feces every morning? On this proposal, I hope they're going to do it every day, because a business owner should not have to put up with that. We shouldn't put up with that as a community. And the homeless issue, as I see it, and I've been watching it a long time, and my heart goes out to anybody who's on the street. God forbid anybody be on the street. But from my experience, it's been they're mentally ill or they're drugs. And we had a couple pictures on the neighborhood news of a guy shooting up. Is that what we want for Turlock? We want to bring more people in for housing. I'm for low-income housing for people who have young families or people who are trying to get a hand up. Give them a hand up, help them out. But homeless people, number one, you're going to have a place where drugs are being used. There's going to be needles. It's not going to address the problem. What we need is mental health. What we need is a place to put them where they are safe, away from us, and safe. Thank you. My time's up. I get long-winded. Sorry.
All right, Mr. Treewell, you're pulling 5G. I got that. Anybody else wishing to speak that didn't fill out a card?
And I want to speak too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then go ahead. I'm sorry. It just says here.
No, it's not farmland.
Oh, I missed that up. I went right past it.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and Turlock citizens. As the mayor and council, you have to focus on the big picture. You must base your decisions on facts and reality. You have to be open-minded and willing to accept new ideas. What's going on in the world today is not sustainable. In Stanislaus County, the greatest resources are our farmland, the water, and the climate we have. Stanislaus County has the farmland, the climate, and the water to grow food for the next 200 years. Our Stanislaus County ancestors were innovative and forward-looking. In 1887, 130 years ago, Turlock Irrigation District became the first irrigation district in the state of California. Stanislaus County's existing general agricultural A2 zoning supports and enhances agriculture as the predominant land use in the county. This regulation is intended to protect open space lands pursuant to Government Code 65910. Once farmland is built on, it can never be recovered. The fact and reality is all cities in Stanislaus County need to save this prime farmland surrounding their cities by growing up and not out. In the city of Turlock, we need to build 3, 4, and 5-story housing apartments and condos on our infill land areas. An intelligent and realistic goal would be to freeze all of our county farmland at the A2 zoning designation for the next 200 years. Those of you who have traveled anywhere in the U.S. or the world know that we have the best farmland in the world. We must not build anything north of Taylor Road. We must preserve our farmland to feed ourselves and our nation. Then our descendants can say, our city of Turlock ancestors were innovative and forward-looking. In the 2020s, they saved this farmland so that we could have food to eat. You really don't understand how precious this land is. I don't think all of you do. I'm sure some of you do. But if it hadn't been for TID and what they did, right now we are the only county in the Central Valley of California that has enough water for the next 200 years because of what they've done. And that is the important thing. We've got the water, the land, and the climate. We need to preserve it. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Mary Jackson. I'd like to piggyback a little bit about what Mr. Weiler spoke in regards to planning, urban planning. I mean, because all you really have to do, especially for the new members, is drive around. We have a very distinct urban growth boundary. Taylor to the north, nothing north of Taylor. I believe it's not Daubenberger, but I think it's Waring. The Merced County line, and then Highway 99, at least for housing. And if you look at Modesto, it's hopscotch. If you look at Fresno, it's even worse. And so I think it's really important. When people come up here and talk about the rise of homeless, you go back to Governor Brown had to let people out of the state prisons where we would have been paying millions and millions of dollars. And we haven't built low-income housing in 15 years, which I know Ms. Bublak and I know about that, but a lot of people don't seem to understand that. It takes at least 2 years to get a low-income housing project in the pipeline, and it needs state and federal matching funds. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I pick up my Turlock Journal, and we have a horrible thing that happened, and I'm extremely appreciative to city staff Eric Schultz and Marshall, who was at a vigil Thursday night and left the bathrooms open. And I know that Mr. Schultz was going to write a thank you, but I really wanted to say thank you for those of us who are over 30 and would probably need to use the restroom at this event. I was extremely thankful. But I pick up the journal, and there's this situation where someone gets written up, I don't know if it was the police or neighborhood services, about chalking in downtown. And it's just very frustrating to me that this is what we're using city services when we're so thinly staffed, but also it looks like it's vindictive. And so I'm going to send you an email because I don't want to really chastise you about this, but it really needs to stop. Because this person put up a mural about 3 years ago, maybe it was long, and it was told to be taken down. Yet there was a mural on Olive at a pharmacy that I don't know if they ever went through the proper procedures. And there's chalking all over. There are communities within Chalk that have chalk contests or chalk festivals that bring people to their community where they spend money, especially in the downtown. So it's just really frustrating to me. It's actually, I didn't bring a piece of chalk, but when did this become like a weapon? Thank you.
Anyone else who did not fill out a card who wishes to speak in public participation? Okay, I will close public participation, move on to a motion waiving reading of all ordinances on the agenda except by title.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passes 5-0. We do have several items requested to be pulled on consent calendar. Let me just check with Mr. Bullock. You have a letter that is in support. Did you still want to speak on that item? And he's not here. Okay, so I have right now item G, George, item J, John, and K, King to be pulled separately. Are there any others? If not,
A motion to approve as amended.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes. All right, we'll do item G. And we'll go ahead and open it to the public. Go ahead and come on up here, Milton, tell us what the query is.
Yes, again, we're all aware of the fact that we needed chlorine in our water, so it was an obvious thing, it was necessary. But as it was implemented, I was kind of surprised in my neighborhood. It was very strong the first week, even the first 2 weeks. It's still pretty strong, but not as bad as it was the first 2 weeks. It was so strong when I made some tea, it actually made it so bad tasting, I had to throw it out. So, I mean, I hope that that's not going to be an issue. I don't know what precisely is creating that issue. Possibly, I'm being fed by water from 2 wells because I'm kind of, I think, in the middle of 2 different wells. But I think that at this point, we're only supposed to be having very small quantities of the chlorine coming out into the houses. And it's pretty strong. I do notice that it's stronger in the mornings than it is in the evenings. And I kind of just deducted that, well, maybe the reason for that is in the mornings, if you're pouring the chlorine in at a regular basis rather than by quantity of water that's being used, it would be stronger because you'd have more of it because people are not using water. But in the evenings, people have washed their dishes, they've washed their clothes, they've done their gardening, they've done all those things. It could dilute it some, but it's still pretty strong in my neighborhood, meaning this is the beginning of this project. Questions on the financing of it. I noticed that it's going to include some of this chlorine is going to be used by the SRWA. And I'm just wondering how, since we get 2/3 of the water and Ceres gets 1/3, if that price for the chlorine that's being used at the SRWA is going to be divided 2-1. And I can understand the price of things going up, which the price has gone up, but $3,179,000 is a lot of money. But we have to have safe water. It would have been nice if we didn't have to have this. We also, of course, have our 123 TCP issue, and that's $5 million at wellhead. So we're going to have to work on that also. But basically I'm saying, okay, is it possible that in my neighborhood, I'd like to have it checked out. Mr. Goodwin and the staff could check it out to see if it's possible that it's a stronger amount going into one area. And if there are other areas in town that are complaining, I think you should let Public Works know that so they can check those out. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak about this item? Corinne?
I am severely allergic to chlorine. We had a house on an acre. It was bad water. They put chlorine in there. So I know what you're doing with the chlorine. Believe me. Please take that into account. I just smell it. I start watering. I'm having allergic reactions. I have to take Benadryl. Please take that into account and do as little as possible in this. It used to be when I first came here, we could drink out of the rivers. This is a really sad state of affairs that our wells are so bad. Underground. We need to wake up. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we'll close the public comment. Mr. Goodman. Let's start with chlorine price. 2 to 1. It's
Right.
increased 100%. Talk to us.
Okay, so last year, we were able to contract for a chlorine delivery at 79 cents a gallon. We are now going to have to pay $3 a gallon. We can't, and part of it, a lot of plants just shut down, stopped producing chlorine. Or sodium hypochlorite is what we actually purchase. And then we had a plant, a major producer that burned down in the last year. And so it's a supply and demand issue. There's still a great demand for it. The supply has gone down, so the price has gone up. We can't contract for more than a year at a time. And some suppliers won't contract at all. We call them and they tell us what the current price is, and that's what we pay. So that's the reason that it's become so expensive. As this shows, we're not just using the sodium hypochlorite for our wellhead treatment, but we're using it in the wastewater treatment plant and out at the SRWA plant, and that will be broken out by city. That will be taken care of.
And as far as if there's a stronger chlorination in an area, how do they go about it? If anybody, besides just Milt's area, what do they do? Contact you?
So
What?
yes, you can call Muni. If it's after hours, you can call the regular after hours number, and word will be given to the on-call person from Muni, one of our water operations people, and they can go out and take samples and measure the chlorine residual and see if there's a problem with the equipment in that area. The equipment is very sensitive and can dose down to 0.2 parts per million, and that's where we've got it currently set. That's as low as we can go, and so you think about that. That's the equivalent of 1 part per 5 million. And so it's actually a very low dose, 1 gallon of sodium hypochlorite for 5 million gallons of water. And so we can't dose lower than that, but the state requires that before we start operating the new water treatment plant, we have to be at 1 part per million. So we're gradually going to be ramping that up. We don't have any choice, state law. I feel for people who are sensitive to chlorine. I personally am sensitive to chlorine. It dries out my skin, but I do use point of use removal of the chlorine so that I'm not drinking it and I'm not bathing in it. And that's the choice that I made many years ago. My wife and I made that, and that's what we do. And we accept the fact that we need the chlorine in the water. So,
Any other questions for Mr. Goodman? All right, so will you have an offline conversation with Milt to have his area checked, please?
absolutely.
Okay. All right, so what is the will of council?
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Pixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, it passes 5-0. We'll go ahead and do this next one, Councilmember. You want to take a
Yeah, I just want to step out for this. Tice's I've known for many, many years and have a very close relationship, and I don't want to be part of the vote.
Okay. Take a hike, buddy. Another room. All right. So this item is getting into an agreement with Tice Realty Group for 3 years for real estate broker services. Are there any questions from the council? Okay, we'll open it to the public. Anyone wishing to speak regarding this item? Okay, we'll close the public comment, bring it back.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, it passes on a 4-0 with a recuse. And if somebody will knock on the door and ask Councilmember Bixel to come back. The next item is pulled by Councilmember Abram. And go ahead and,
So I have more of a comment, so I don't know if you want to open up.
oh, sure, okay. So for the public, we just pulled an item here. It's rescinding Resolution 74 of 2020 and adopting a new resolution updating the investment policy for the city of Turlock. If there's no questions for Director Moreno, I will open it to the public. Anyone wishing to speak regarding this new policy? Okay, we will close the public comment and come back for.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm pleased to see that this is on here, that we're updating this. And, you know, I wanted to reiterate a request that I made from before, because our investment portfolio is a very important part of our revenue stream. It's, you know, one that the city has control of via the treasurer. And so we take a lot of time to discuss our budget, many months, and I wanted to reiterate my request to have the treasurer be part of that discussion, at least on an annual basis, to talk about the investment performance and our investment activities. You know, I appreciate Director Moreno and Madam City Clerk were helpful in making sure that the City Council is getting the reports that are supposed to be, you know, by statute coming to us. But I just wanted to bring that to our attention because we are designating our authority as the decision-making body here to the treasurer to make those requests. So I would like to see if we can get some more collaboration from that other elected arm of our government.
Sure. I have made that request to the city treasurer, but I can go ahead and make that again. I know she spoke to me and she was going to reach out to give you a little bit of information on how she operates and things of that nature, but I will definitely make that request again.
Okay, any other comments? If not, what's the will of council?
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Thank you.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Vixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passes 5-0, thank you. All right, this final reading, second final reading for an ordinance for Flavors Farm, and I will open it to the public. Anyone wishing to make a comment regarding this vote, second and final vote? Mr. Flavor? Okay, I'll close the public comment and bring it back.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Vixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
No.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
No, and it passes with the 3-2. Congratulations, Flavors. All right, public hearings. This item 7A, ordering the improvements and formation of Camarampur Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District, and I just brutally used that. Whoa! All right, help me, save me.
Karampur. I'm glad you said it and I didn't have to.
Okay.
First thing tonight, before we get into the item, I wanted to introduce and welcome our new city engineer, Daniel Padilla. He's sitting right here.
Long time.
We're very excited and very fortunate to have Daniel join our staff. He comes with many years of experience and is very knowledgeable in all areas of engineering. So I think we'll see the benefits of his hire immediately. So
You're gonna be
thank you,
inundated.
Daniel.
It's lots of work coming.
We have a lot of things to talk about.
He had a very busy first 2 days. There was, the mayor read the resolution. This is our third and final reading for 270 West Glenwood Avenue. If anybody has any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
All right, questions for the director? Okay, we'll open it to the public. Anyone wishing to speak regarding this item? Okay, we'll close the public comment and ask the city clerk to report on results of the election.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to report that one ballot was received for this item, and it is in favor of the district. No ballots were received in opposition of. Therefore, no majority protest exists, and the council may form the district.
All right. With that, you heard the lady. Is there any comments or a will?
Motion to form the district.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Vixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, it passes 5-0. Thank you for that. Item B, this is you too, and I'm not reading.
All right, this is ordering the improvement for the formation
Although I
of
could do this
Chagrill
one.
Landscape and Lighting Assessment District and Street Maintenance Benefit Assessment. This is located at 1037 South Kilroy. This is also a third and final. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the director? All right, well, open it to.
I do
Oh,
have
whoa.
one question.
Okay.
Where are we at with our audit? Okay, yeah, because would love to see us have just one special assessment district that we can have everything into in the future.
Yeah, so the staff
comments.
and the team has been working pretty diligently on this. We meet pretty much weekly with our consultants. So you got a two-pronged approach, which you're well aware. We're developing the CFD, which is getting closer to getting formation and taking formal action. But we're also doing the audit on the current landscaping districts. We're doing a review tomorrow to look at that. I actually hope to bring it within the next 2 meetings to have a conversation so that we can make an adjustments prior to filing the annual engineer's report. So you will have some information coming to you shortly on that.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? We'll open it to the public. Anybody? All right, I'm bringing it back. Closing the public and the well.
Move to approve.
Second.
Oops, I'm sorry. I messed up.
Oh, we need the results.
I need results,
Sorry,
please.
backtrack.
Madam Clerk, hi, how are you?
All right.
You messed me up.
I'd like to report that one ballot was received for this item, and it is in favor of the district. No ballots were received in opposition of, therefore no majority protest exists, and the council may form the district.
Outstanding, thank you.
Now move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to second. Please, call the roll.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Vixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, passes 5-0. All right, Ms. Quintero, we're calling a special mail ballot election respecting proposed annexation number 35 to Communities Facilities District number 2. It's on you.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the public. The item before you tonight is the 35th annexation into the Community Facilities District Number 2. This action, if approved, will annex 2 properties into the existing Community Facilities District. The properties are located at 4,118 North Tegner Road and 906, 908, and 930 North Olive Avenue. I will confirm with the clerk that she's received the documents necessary to continue with the public hearing and the associated resolutions. Madam Clerk, can you confirm receipt of the following documents? Proof of publication of the notice of public hearing,
So confirmed?
signed waiver and consent forms for the properties being annexed,
So confirmed?
completed and signed ballots,
So confirmed?
signed certificate of clerk regarding receipt of property owner waiver and consent forms, and the ballot declaring election results.
So confirmed.
The clerk has confirmed all required items have been received. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time, or it would be appropriate to open the public hearing.
Questions for the director? Thank you. All right, we'll open it to the public. Anyone wishing to speak regarding this item? Okay, then we will close public comment and bring it back. We need a resolution. Do we want to do this separate or together? I'm sorry, Madam Clerk. Is it okay? All right, we have a motion for both and a second for both. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Vixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Quintero. It passes 5-0, but you're still here. The next item is D, approving the first substantial amendment to the fiscal year 2022-23 City of Turlock Stanislaus Urban County Home Consortium Annual Action Plan.
Yes, so good evening again. The item before you tonight is an proposed
No,
amendment.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt for just
Yeah,
one second?
absolutely.
We do have a green sheet for my colleagues, so I
Yes.
apologize.
No, thank you. The item before you tonight is a proposed amendment to the 22-23 Annual Action Plan. The amendment proposes to reallocate $400,000 of CDBG funding into the public improvement category in order to fund the remaining work needed to be able to complete the Turlock Gospel Mission Day Center building located at 432 South Broadway. The second part of the amendment proposes to allocate the additional $1,730,311 in home funds that Turlock is responsible for after it was determined by HUD that Turlock was to remain the lead agency for the home consortium for the 22-23 program year. The amendment proposes to allocate $1,297,733 into the affordable housing category, $259,547 into the affordable housing category that is specifically designated for a community housing development organization, or a CHODO is often referred to, as is required by home regulations, and $173,031 for administrative costs. There is a green sheet on this item to correct 2 of the items in the proposed plan, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any on this item.
Questions for the director? Vice Mayor?
Can you give us a little history as to why we need the extra $400,000 for the Turlock Gospel Mission Day Center?
Yes, there are kind of multiple items, I guess, that play as to why the additional funding is needed. For the original scope of work to what the project has become has changed. There was originally thought that the trusses in the building could be repaired. Once the roof was completely torn off, it was determined that they would need to be replaced. In the scope for the ducting and the original work write-up, it was written up as at a residential standard. When plan check was completed, because of the nature of the building, it has to be commercial, so all that changed all of the ducting from a flexible to a hard duct, so that was additional $50,000 in cost. In getting into what needed to be done for the restrooms to be ADA compliant, there actually is approximately 300 square foot addition that is needed to the building to be able to build the restrooms to comply with the ADA standards. So there's some things that were not scoped right initially, and then there were other items as construction went on that were unforeseen that were added that are adding to the cost of construction.
And we've already spent, Turlock Gospel Mission's already spent about 365,000?
Approximately about $380,000 in HEAP funding.
Okay, yeah, that's unfortunate because I think we could have rebuilt that.
Is that a question?
No. Now you threw me off.
Good.
Shame on you.
I feel good about that.
Is the Turlock Gospel Mission, have they completed their compliance as far as all the inspections are done, all of their financial records are in, we know who the board of directors are, we dotted all our i's and crossed all our t's with them?
So we have gone back out to monitor on the storage building that the city has the agreement with. The storage building has been found to be in compliance and operating as per the terms of that funding agreement. In talking to Stanislaus County, all of the reporting into the HMIS system that's required for the ESG compliance has all been updated and is in compliance.
Okay, so they're utilizing the correct system now?
Correct.
Okay. And finally, we're doing a pretty large update, amendment to this. I'm just kind of curious as to why we didn't get some of the things that the council was asking for, such as helping more people and helping seniors.
For this specific update and for the 22-23, because it's really at the end of the fiscal year, the expenditures will really be what is established and approved in the 23-24 plan, with the exception of the CDBG reallocation to the public improvement. Because in this annual action plan, it will have a specific project, then that funding will stay specifically obligated to that. Any of this other funding that is not project specific then rolls into the 23-24 plan and will be expended in those categories.
So anything that we don't spend this year, we can then next year's plan
Maybe.
rework it and
Yes.
get the items that we've been asking for going on 3 years?
Yes, we have one project that's very exciting. We're working out to bid to install an air conditioning in someone's house, so.
Mine?
You get all the money and all the perks, don't you?
Right, I know. Living large. Okay, we'll open it to the public. Anyone wishing to speak regarding this item? Okay, we'll close the public comment and bring it back. Comments? I gotta tell you, I'm still gonna be a no. I really feel like we're not helping who we're here, bless you, to help. And I truly believe after 3 or 4 years of talking about something, that should have been on the forefront. And so I'm gonna keep my solid no and see what happens. Other comments or motion?
Motion to approve.
Can we have a motion?
Second.
And a second to approve the amendment? Call the roll.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
No.
Councilmember Moniz?
No.
Mayor Bublak?
No, it does not pass. Thank you. Item E, Director Moreno. Come on up, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Tonight, item you have in front of you is part of our process of what we've been talking about for the roads program. So this is the beginning of one of the transactions in which we come to council looking for.
Can you just hang on for a second?
Sure.
Can you guys, just a little bit? Thank you. All right, go ahead, Mr. Moreno.
Sorry. So yeah, this is one of the process we were looking for. This transaction gets us to the point where we can start looking for actually getting the financing in place. These are some of the preliminary documents and agreements that are necessary. Just to kind of reiterate what we talked about, what this is for the roads program. This is what we'll be looking at as our first tranche we'll be issuing. Our financing program consists of multiple tranches. This is just the first one within most likely 3 years that we'll be looking at. Our financing plan is partly financed, but there also is other funding sources such as Measure L, Measure A, and grants and things of that nature. So this kind of can bring us together some of our funding sources so we get the available money and we can get these projects running through. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Eric Scriveny. He's our municipal advisor who will give a presentation of how those transactions will walk through. Eric?
All right, welcome. You guys want opposing mics?
Don't make me move all my stuff.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. We have a short presentation. Really don't need to go into what is well known. It's for the record, the presentation. Obviously, the roads program is very, very important to council and the community. So that's why we're here. Really here for two things: to fill out the financing team. We were fortunate to be hired by the city as municipal advisor a month and a half ago, but we still need bond counsel and disclosure counsel and the financing partner, in this instance, the underwriter. We believe that a public offering is going to be the most cost-effective approach for funding this. So we've got Jones Hall, Representative Dave Fama here, and we also have Nikki Tallman and Rick Brandis from Oppenheimer here. They may need to be answering some questions for you. The key parts of the transaction are, as council in the past has denoted and expressed direction. Measure A was passed in 2020. It's a 3/4 cent sales tax, and 50% of that is earmarked for the roads program. This transaction is anticipated to raise $25 million. That's the direction that we've got. We expect the transaction to be approximately a 15-year loan because we don't want to be too long for the asset that we're improving, which is roads. We expect that transaction should pay 15 years is approximately. We're still tinkering with the right number for the useful life of the asset, depending on the projects, but also the annual payment. Right now, that payment looks to be about $2.5 million with an estimated interest rate in the 4% range. So it's my understanding that the current Measure A revenues are about $15 million, half of that $7.5 million. So utilizing about $2.5 million for this first tranche leaves plenty of room for pay-go types of projects that you can continue to do every year. The expectation is these funds will need to be spent over the next 3 years, the $25 million, in conjunction with your other, but to abide by tax rules, you need to spend the money over the next 3 years. So I think that's the main stuff here. Oh, I think we need to go back. It's anticipated one of the key parts of the transaction is the security for the transaction, and the security we've been talking about that. The right security, we believe, is the streets system for the city of Turlock. That's the asset that you're improving. You know, it's a system, but and it's a significant amount of value that the city has in the street system. We are talking about maybe one or more other assets if we can gain some benefit for the credit of the transaction that might help with the interest rates. But over the next 1 to 2 or 3 transactions, certainly streets would be the predominant security in this and those transactions in the future. Next slide. So the financing team, as I mentioned, well, the city of Turlock, your staff, Mr. Moreno and others are the project manager for this, and they direct the whole team. We're the advisor, we're the fiduciary to the city, we review all documents. Bond and Disclosure Council, Jones Hall in this instance, they've written the legal documents that underpin the transaction. The disclosure part of the legal documents is not being approved tonight, but that is the offering document that would be approved at a subsequent meeting. So you will have another opportunity to review the whole transaction. This evening, we're going to be approving about 5 or 6 documents that Jones Hall has drafted to get the ball rolling for credit review by the rating agencies, as well as put the disclosure document together for the future. The underwriter sells the bonds. The underwriter is the one who's going to take the offering document and bring it out to the investors, and they're going to go out to national funds. They're going to go out to retail investors to sell the bonds, and hopefully get a very strong interest from the investors to get a higher demand, if you will, so that we can get a lower interest rate and a better payment. Trustee, U.S. Bank has been the trustee for previous transactions. We understand there's no complaints for U.S. Bank, so we're going to slot them in, but we'll ask for a bid. So the transaction, it's a leaseback. That means that the city needs a counterparty in the transaction. In this instance, it's going to be the city's public financing authority, which was created years ago between the city and its former redevelopment agency. Those two combined to create a public financing authority. That counterparty, which City Council is the governing board of the PFA, creates this flow where the city leases the asset, if you will, the streets in this instance, maybe other assets, and then the city to the PFA, and then the PFA subleases or leases it back to the city, so the city has use of the streets, which of course is required, where the city needs to have the use of what it owns. That creates the relationship where there's a payment stream. That payment stream then is assigned by the Public Financing Authority to the trustee for the sale of the bonds. That's the income stream that is utilized as a security for selling bonds that the investors rely on to pay the interest or pay the debt service on the bonds. So site lease agreement, indenture of trust, which is a very important document, kind of governs the whole security, has certain covenants that the city must abide by. There are default provisions in the transaction. The assignment agreement, as I mentioned, is a very straightforward assignment from the Public Financing Authority to the trustee so that there's an income stream to pay debt service. And then the bond purchase agreement, that is being approved also as to form this evening. That is the agreement between the city of Turlock, or the PFA, I should say, and the underwriter. There is no deal between the city and the underwriter as far as the sale of the bonds until the date that those bonds are priced, we call it, or sold, which is months away from now. That day, they'll formally ask for orders, receive orders, pull it all together to then make a proposal or a presentation to the city, and we'll be there, of course, as your municipal advisor. That proposal is either accepted or it's not accepted by the city. If it's accepted, the bond purchase agreement is filled in with all the details, and it is executed by your city manager, and that's the day that you have a deal. That is actually the day that you have a firm deal. So tonight, if council decides to proceed, you would be approving the financing documents, those 5 documents that were shown, as well as the rounding out the financing team of the underwriter and the bond and disclosure council firms. Come back to city council with that very, very important document, the preliminary official statement. That is the offering document that goes to investors. It's very, very important that everyone reviews that, because we need that to be accurate, because it's the city's document that's going out to investors. That we're planning on using that, as well as the legal documents and all the statistical information that we gather. What's going on in the city? What's the credit of the city? What does development look like? How are things going? All those things matter when we present the credit of the city on this transaction to, it's undetermined whether we're going to go with Standard & Poor's or Moody's Investor Service. We're still trying to figure out the best strategy on that. And part of the weight on this is we need to have our a good estimated actual audit in hand for fiscal 22. Yeah. If all goes well and we get the rating we like, and we go to the market and get the rates that the city likes, we have the deal priced and the bonds sold and the interest rates locked in August, we would close and deliver the $25 million to the city's trust account in September.
All right. Did
Any
you have
questions?
questions for?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. So we're talking about the first tranche of money. This is probably more for Director Moreno.
Yeah.
Zoom out a little bit for the public,
Sure.
and how many tranches are we looking at? What frequency do you foresee us coming back for them? Over what kind of time period? First?
Sure. So looking at your cash flow plan that we put together previously, we're looking at about 4 to 5 tranches, basically over probably mostly about 10 years, coming back maybe every 3 years or so, depending on how the buckets fold. So the financing for a project like this, you're just wrapping the money around the project for the most part. You're going to build out a few years to give yourself some room so that you have the cash flow to get those projects done. So you're constantly assessing, right? Every single time we're doing something, we're looking at our buckets and what we're trying to fund. We sit down with the engineering department, Fred, and say, okay, what are your next project scope estimate look like? And then we roll that all together. So you'll have hybrids of some financing in the next and all the next tranches, right? To try and make sure we hit that 3-year marker. That's important to me. I got to manage that piece of it to make sure we don't get ourselves into a situation we don't want to be. So you're blending the current reserves that we have throughout those whole year of the terms of the thing. Really what it is what do those buckets look like? How much do we need so I can wrap that money around it? So you're going throughout many years and we're having these annual assessments of what that cash flow looks like.
And in terms of the funding source for the debt service, is that only Measure A, or are we
That's
able
correct.
to utilize Measure A and Measure L? Because that was part of the discussion back in September.
Great question. I did not answer that in the presentation. The credit of the transaction is a general fund pledge. So all legally available funds of the general fund. Of course, the city and your finance director are underwriting it from the city's point of view based on Measure A. And that's really how we're all looking at it. But it is a general fund pledge. It's a lease, annual appropriation to pay that lease payment.
But as the issuer of the bond, we are earmarking the 50% of
That's
Measure
correct.
A as
So the
our
general fund
debt
is part of
service.
the funding documents, but the actual funding source is identified as Measure A. That's correct.
This is probably more of a project-based type question, but how soon after the funds become available will we be able to utilize them for a new bunch of projects?
Anybody? Mr. Schultz?
You know, let me start with that conversation too as well. So the funding sources that we have for the financing obligation, we're going to use that for construction only. All the things that we're doing as far as engineering, preliminary information, that's all done either by Measure A or Measure L. The debt financing will only be utilized for the construction project. So you'll see that package come forward as we issue through the construction part of it.
Can I add a part B to my question then, based
Sure.
on that? If it's, just, can you also clarify in the timeline, do we need any of these bond funds for projects that have already been approved
I can
with
take that
this
too.
council?
So issuing the debt now, you actually can go backwards and utilize these funds for the project. So we will wrap it around with some of the first project as well as the second project that's already being in flow. So yes, we can go backwards.
And our plan would be into design for each one of these bonds coinciding, so we'll have the designs done when the bond comes, and then we'll start designing for the next one. So we'll keep up with the yearly bonds. So these road projects will roll out every year.
Which is why we approved 3 years in advance already.
Yes.
Got it.
Great
You
job,
guys are
council.
smart. Yeah, I figured that out.
Yeah, keeping the financing tool as far as just the construction keeps it simplistic. We're having a lot of activity throughout the years. Every month we're having expenditures. We have that cash flow. Let's keep that sideways or on the side of it, and let's continue to use the financing mechanism for construction.
So it's a conservative approach really because we know there's other monies coming.
Correct.
Question. Other municipalities who are utilizing these bonds right now for their road projects?
Yes, as far as roads being a key item that councils across the state of California are funding through cash, but also bonds, the answer is yes. There have been specific transactions that have had sales taxes that were special taxes dedicated to roads that have been issued, and there have been transactions just like this one that's proposed that were general fund, general tax types of sources that the city was underwriting their deal with that, but it was a general fund pledge, a lease pledge. There's been, we've worked on several
Okay,
in the
so
last 2
it's
years.
not a novel idea.
It's
This is
not,
something
no.
that
No.
other municipalities are doing.
No,
We're not
in
just.
fact, you know,
yeah, okay.
there's one of the things that was a selling point for other councils, which I think is for here too, is aggregating projects. You get better bids. You're more effective and efficient on executing those projects. So it makes a lot of sense for certain cities that are really prioritizing this.
That's great. Thank you.
Mr. Moran, just for the simple folk,
Sure.
Should we see a big economic downturn?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we gotta pay the bonds.
Correct.
I don't wanna see people getting laid off to pay the bonds. Do you see that we've got enough reserve to be able to do that?
I do. You have a healthy reserve within both your Measure L and your Measure A. This is why we take it step by step. You know, we don't try to run full flash forward. You can remember from way back when they started talking about issuing some major debt, and I said, pull back a little bit. Let's get, let's take it step by step and be financially conservative. We can still get you there, but let's do it appropriately. So that's why we have this step process.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay, any other questions for presentation or director?
I have another question. So you're saying that it's for construction only, but we plan to kind of use these funds for projects that have already been in construction?
I'm identifying it just to utilize it for the construction, but it can be used for any factor of the project. It's just how we're kind of setting the money up. So in other words, if we need to utilize that for preliminary engineering, planning, or whatever it may be, those funds can still be utilized for that part of the project too as well. It's just how I'm commingling the money to get together so that we can continue to have that cash flow, use some of those reserves. Don't want to build the reserves too high. We want to use that money too as well, right? So it's just, again, structuring it, getting it done, use some of our pay-go so that we can stack our funding sources across the project. Does that answer your question?
Can we get a report each month after we've got our funding, and so we can see our balance and how it's being spent down, so we can stay on top of it too?
Definitely.
Quarterly?
Yeah, a
Quarterly?
month seems like
Don't paper them to death. Quarterly.
I like paper.
a little micromanaging.
You know,
Well, I
Budget
mean,
Queen.
our Measure A committee is already doing that, right? We're already preparing a quarterly report, so we could wrap it around that too as well, right?
Any other questions? We're coming back to you there, council member. Fair enough, okay. All right, let's go ahead and open it to the public. No.
Yes, we've been waiting for this for a long time, and you've come up with something that looks very good. I think you put good. There is one thing I'm going to mention because I think it's important that I mention it. And I continually hear Measure A. And I know who the two Measure A angels were that got this going. One of them was myself, and the other was Terry Schaefer. We not only helped the roads, but we also helped our police and our fire. We talked on this thing month after month, meeting after meeting about how important it was to pass Measure A. And there were people in Turlock who were against it, but we got a 63 or 4% vote on it. And I'm proud that I did that for my city, and I stood behind this, used some of my own money out of my own pocket. Terry and I bought signs, and we put them up all around the city to make sure Measure A was passed. I got on the committee with the city manager at the time and worked with him so that we get this done. Some places it was kind of scary. It was kind of short call. I thought, well, are we going to get this done? Is this going to get it on the ballot? It was like some people were holding it back. I don't know what. It might have been my imagination. But anyway, we got it on the ballot. We got all the paperwork in. We got the printed, everything. It was voted on, and it was passed. And I'm very proud that I did that for the city of Turlock, that Terry and I took our own personal time and energy and money to see that Measure A would be passed. And I know that, it came out great. And I want to thank you, Isaac, for coming up, and also, of course, the consultants here, because it looks like a good plan, and that's what Measure A, that was part of the purpose of Measure A, so thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll close public comment, and Councilmember Abram, more?
My only concern with this, and maybe it's already been covered and this has already been assuaged, but that, we can start utilizing this money as soon as possible, because, once we go out to bond and we have funds available, this is starting to cost us. And I would also like to just put out a request to City Manager Regan Wilson here that, the last this was talked about, the bond financing structure of things was back in September, I believe, with the Michael Baker preliminary report, kind of like the citywide, this is what we can do, this is how much it's going to cost. And now we kind of have a finer point on the financing structure of it, kind of an idea of how many tranches we're going to be looking at. I would really like to see an updated report from the city on what projects we're going to be able to match to the amount of financing that we have, because the Michael Baker report, in my estimation is if we could get everything we wanted and if money was no object, it was saying things in the range of $240, $280 million. And my conversations with staff is that that's not exactly what we're going to be able to afford. More than exactly. So I feel like since this is coming from Measure A funds, and we have that accountability arm of Measure A, I think it would be in the service of accountability and transparency, and just setting good expectations for the public on what we can, how much money we're going to spend, what we're going to get for that, and what Turlock's going to look like in 15 years from now.
Mr. Wilson?
We can provide that kind of report. We'll probably do it as part of the quarterly updates. And we'll also in those updates, we'll also identify the roads that we're going to be doing improvements on. So you'll see both of them together.
I just want to thank staff. This has been, ever since I was campaigning, this has been one of my major pushes. I wanted roads to be worked on from day one, and it's finally coming to fruition. And I can't be more proud. So thank you very much for your staff and everybody that's worked on this. This is great to finally get here.
I'll echo those comments and motion to approve.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
And we have a second. Just real quick, if we need to, maybe we need to publish the 3 years of roads that we've already got set up so people understand that we're already ready. Everything's done. Fred's done that, so we're already ahead. It's not like we're gonna sit with money. We already voted for that, but let's let the public know that, because I get your point is you want them to know that, and you already know it. But we are not gonna just go, okay, we got money, now what do we do? We've already voted for it. We're ready to fix those and way more. And Fred's on it. I've seen his desk. It's a mess.
Yeah.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's 5-0. Thank you, guys. All right, now I'm going to close the council meeting and open the Turlock Public Financing Authority. And there's item 8, action item for the Public Financing Authority. And Ms. Moreno, why are you trying to leave?
I don't need that for this
Oh, okay.
So this piece of it is just the
He's taking
second
a
leg of it,
bow.
right? So, board members, this transaction just kind of concludes that myriad of what we're trying to do and getting the documents set. So you have a 2-pronged issue you got to deal with in a sense of the way. You got a city side and a PFA side. This is not an abnormal transaction the city has not done before. So again, it's just getting that structure put in place. Any questions?
Wow. Questions for Mr.
Yeah,
Moreno?
See?
Mr. Condense. Okay, we're going to open it to the public. Anyone wishing to speak regarding this item? Okay, closing the public item and bringing it back. What do you got?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Board Member Abram?
Yes.
Board Member Bixel?
Yes.
Board Member Moniz?
Yes.
Vice Chair Franco?
Yes.
Chairwoman Bublak?
Yes, passes 5-0.
Thank you.
For that. All right, now we're going to close the Turlock Public Financing Authority and reopen the city council meeting and go to 9 action items. Action item 9A was pulled, and we'll get back to that another time. Action item B is approving the telework policy, and Director Dami.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, City staff, and the public. My name is Jessie Dami, HR Director with the City of Turlock. This evening, staff is requesting council approval of a telework policy to assess the viability of an alternate work environment that may benefit the city and eligible employees in good standing effective July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. As the city moves forward with transitioning from the reorganization of many departments and city staff, trends and experiences post-pandemic as it pertains to recruiting and retaining highly qualified candidates has brought the telework policy before you today. We are looking at opportunities to see if this telework policy would be viable for the city of Turlock. Staff recognizes that for the telework policy to be effective, both managers and employees must operate in a relationship of trust. Each department head will evaluate the telework policy to determine if whether 1 or 2 days will work based on their operations and business needs. This 12-month period will allow department heads the opportunity to evaluate the effectiveness of the policy while serving the public and providing city services. Areas I want to highlight: it's important that the telework policy, that during the telework policy, employees' day-to-day work schedules be consistent with their department's core business hours for a number of reasons, including continuity of services, staff support, project-specific questions and issues. When needed, employees must forego a telework day because their presence is required in the office as determined by the department head and business needs. Telework should not be a substitute for dependent care. And I also wanted to highlight the measurements. So if this policy is approved, the city will look to see if the policy, my apologies, that eligible staff in good standing will be required to review the policy and submit a request form. Each department will be responsible to review and approve each request and provide HR a copy of the approved request forms. Approved staff will review the ergonomic self-assessment, remote access guide, and complete the telework training. HR and IT will develop a web page so the policy is simplified and transparent. HR and IT will survey the policy and report results to City Manager for review. City Manager will provide each department head feedback in their employee performance evaluation on how they manage their staff during this one-year pilot period. Department heads will utilize telework opportunities for employees to focus on trainings, team office hours, staff meetings, and assign work with deliverables so it can be checked off. Department heads will evaluate and make decisions based on their operation and business needs, again, to determine if they will allow 1 or 2 days. I will be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Director Dami?
Have we had a lot of interviewees request this?
Yes, I should have highlighted that. So we've lost a lot of qualified candidates because they were looking for some sort of type of hybrid schedule, and we didn't offer anything.
What, can you give me an example of what positions would be eligible for this? I mean, we're in a public service related industry, so.
So police chief, fire chief, they're gonna just call in?
I can't quite think of too many positions that this would be fitting for.
Yes, so we have listed the positions that are not eligible in the
I
policy.
saw that, but I'm trying to think of someone that would be eligible.
Yes, it would be anybody in accounting, engineering.
Can they do those jobs from
IT.
remote? I mean, do we want to have that openness from,
He's like,
especially the accounting department? Okay, anyway, sorry. And how are we going to resolve this with the staff that can't take this?
pay him more.
Yeah, are we going to have to pay them more because they don't get the privilege of working from home? How do we explain to the rest of the staff that someone from accounting gets to go home and work, but sorry, chief, you guys have to stay at work? How are we going to explain this to the rest of the staff?
I understand it. Thank you for the question. Really, to answer that question, it is dependent on the position. So as the policy states, there are positions that don't qualify. This was vetted through the labor groups that
That can participate.
that can participate. Yeah.
And it seems like it's creating a little bit more work for the supervisors, so they're going to be having a lot more supervisory duties for people that are off-site, plus they have to review all of the paperwork. How much more work are they creating for the supervisors with these off-site?
So in speaking with other agencies, I was actually at a conference in April, and there was about 26 to 28 agencies that shared their experience with telework, and they shared that the continuity of city services and operations has been benefited through the telework, the ability to perform obviously during the emergency, improved work-life balance and job satisfaction, greater employee and department flexibility, and improved attraction and retention of new hires and qualified employees. The work's definitely at the beginning. It will be there for the department heads, but I believe once they've, set the guidelines and set the tone and, the expectations, it'll just work through on its own.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yeah, so I have a lot of concerns with this, Ms. Dami. How's the city gonna ensure that the telework scenario is not a substitute for dependent care?
That would be, each department head will manage that. They'll manage their employees and determine, make it clear. It states in the policy and they'll make it clear with
I
their
understand that, but the department director can't go into somebody's house, right? How are we gonna ensure that? How are you gonna ensure that our employees that are supposed to be working an 8-hour day are putting in an 8-hour day?
So that's why departments will be assigning work and ensuring that the deliverables are received.
Okay, so now I have questions for IT. Do we have IT? IT. Hi. I have a lot of security questions now. You probably know where I'm gonna go with this. So can you guarantee that I presume these people are gonna be working on iPads or laptops?
Yes.
Provided by the city?
No.
No.
Oh.
What we're doing is providing a one-way in secure encrypted multi-factored authentication connection to the technology resources they need to access. So for doing that, that prevents us from data coming out of the organization onto a personal device or onto a personal network. It stays within the city's intranet and within our internal network. So our goal is to ensure that the data cannot make its way out onto a personal device or onto a home device, and the work they will be doing only affects the internal resources within our servers or within our physical computers.
And what's that gonna cost the city to put that in place?
So we currently have a solution in place that's been since from what I was aware of, since the pandemic onset had started, that allows those remote connections. It has been maintained, upgraded, secured, and when new security measures such as like multi-factor authentication, those implementations and measures were put into place with that type of connection, just for this type, well, not typically remote work type of purpose, but for, if there's ever a type of emergency or we need to access something remotely to check on it. IT is a group that's been using it, and then there were some other groups of exempt employees that have used it.
So do you have any security concerns with this as our IT director?
Well, there's always increased risk when you open up the doors to anything. The more people you let in your home, the more probability there might be of someone tripping and falling. And so the way I look at what we're doing is keeping up with the current trends when it comes to cybersecurity and securing our ecosystem. Right now, what we have in place is, to me, industry best practice, where our biggest threat is the person and their account becoming compromised. But when we add those multiple layers, we have a strong password policy. Our passwords expire over a certain period of time. And then we also add that extra layer of authentication. That ensures that our accounts that could potentially be compromised may not be, because that second layer, you can't get in without a unique code that is tied to that person. Security trends will continue to evolve this way, where they're going to look for another factor. Right now, we're using codes. Those will probably become more advanced that might require biometrics or other factors that can confirm the identity of that person. And our goal would be to continue to keep up with those measures for any of our external access, no matter what it may be. Even our internal access for our administrators requires multiple factors. So I can't get in without confirming it's me.
I have more. So are we gonna need to purchase computers and equipment for people that work from home?
So I'm not one to answer that, but I would say if we do, I'm from the IT side. We have looked at the cost.
You'll set it up if we do.
But we will have to set that up. So if that were required, and I believe in the policy it discusses where equipment may or may not need to be purchased.
Right.
Our goal would be to continue to use the same solution we have in place, where that equipment, even if it is owned, my concern is if a laptop's in a vehicle and that vehicle's broken into and data gets out.
Exactly. Yeah, that's one thing.
Our goal is to ensure that laptop still uses the same connectivity methods,
Right.
so that data does not make its way out. So if it is stolen or something does happen, but at this time we are allowing it through a portal-based remote access solution.
Okay. So my question is going back to Jesse. So what's gonna be the cost of these computers that we're gonna have to purchase for the employees to work from home?
Yes, we did look into that, and the cost is approximately $1,200 a laptop.
1,200 per, and how many employees?
That we will determine during this 12-month period to see how many individuals are eligible to participate.
We don't know how many.
Ballpark, no, we don't. Each department head will kind of, we'll be able to get that answer.
Okay.
So you mentioned earlier that you've lost people in application process or whatever. What positions were they trying for? Maybe that'll give us an understanding of what we're looking at here.
Sure. City engineer was definitely one of them. Others that come to mind would be, no offense, IT.
Wow.
I'm trying to think. There are several others. Yeah, our upper management positions.
This might be a Paul question or a George question, but if these people are not, if the employees that would utilize this are not, they're working hourly wage, so how do we prove that they've done 8 hours? Because deliverables doesn't mean that. I could do it faster and not have it, right? How do we know that people are working that? And the second factor of that is, I remember years and years ago, we had a litigation because an employee used their email after the specific amount of time that they're, say 9 to 5, hypothetically. They checked their emails, therefore, they were back to asking for overtime. So how do we negate that highway there? Anybody?
And are these employees, and then are these employees covered by workman's comp if they trip and fall down their stairs?
Hi, Paul.
No.
Okay, first question was if they claim overtime because they're checking their emails, we would have to foot the bill for that.
Ouch.
And there's an attestation process that they are attesting to the hours that they work every pay period. There are rules in place that they need prior authorization to work overtime. So legally under FLSA, we would have to pay the overtime. However, the city would have the right to discipline that employee for insubordination, for not following work direction via the policy, in that they would need pre-authorization to work the overtime. Second question, workers.
Fall?
What's that?
The slip and fall at home?
Yeah, the workers' comp. Yeah, so if somebody's working at home, we will provide, obviously, guidelines. I believe the policy provides ergonomic self-assessment guidelines. But just like in any work environment, if you're stretching that work environment to the home, then if there is a workers' comp claim, obviously we would do our due diligence and investigate the claim. But just like any workers' comp claim, there could be liability associated with that.
Can I follow up to those points? So, when I asked Director Dami who else is doing this, you provided me that list of 26 and plus places. I mean, Turlock is on the bleeding edge of this trend, and so can you speak to industry, what's happening in the industry for other places that are doing this, not only in California but throughout the world, or throughout the country rather, when it comes to workman's comp and overtime issues?
Well, again, strong policies, I think, are appropriate in these types of situations. I will tell you that prior to working with the city of Turlock full-time, I was the HR director and risk manager for Tuolumne County. They did have a hybrid telework program. It worked well for the county, and I know a number of other public agencies. During the formation of this policy, I was asked to do a survey. So we sent out a survey to all the Northern California cities. A vast majority of those cities do have a telework program in place for the many reasons that Jesse talked about. retention, attraction. For some positions, it could mean efficiency of work. Are there drawbacks to expanding that work environment? Certainly. But I think that, I think Jesse and quite frankly, a lot of members of the executive team have reviewed it, and we've, if you're going to approve a policy, I think I think staff have done their due diligence on this particular policy. Are there risks? As your director of risk management, certainly. But again, I think the policy, I think it's pretty strong if the council wishes to approve it. Yes.
Would you say then, from your area of expertise in the HR world and your strong background in risk management and HR world, that there are not a barrage of cases or claims coming for workers' comp and other labor issues stemming from this?
My experience is I did not see an uptick in workers' comp claims. I think what Jesse talked about in terms of work-life balance and job satisfaction kind of counters that. Again, if this is a pilot program, so if we start to see some trending that's concerning, obviously, you have a very competent executive team that is going to manage this program very closely. And if we start to see some abuses, then certainly, we'll come back or we'll pull the reins on the program. But this is, in my estimation, this is nothing new for public agencies throughout the state of California. We did a hybrid workplace during COVID. We had an A and B team. I wasn't here, so I can't attest to how that worked, but my understanding is it worked well. And obviously it kept the in-person, in-office environment safer during that time period. But I think what you're hearing today is a limitation on this hybrid workplace where we're only asking for a 1, possibly 2-day to see if this is something that's even going to work for the city. But yes, to answer your question, Mayor, members of the council, there are risks with doing things like this.
I have a question. Do you know how many job openings, give or take, you have right now in the city?
I don't have the exact number, ish.
Ballpark.
Yeah.
I'm taking out, say, police and fire.
Was there like 200, 250, Jesse?
Number of
Openings, job
vacancies?
openings?
Of full-time. You're
I think
asking for
that's
full-time?
No, openings.
Oh,
Job
openings, sorry.
Unfilled positions.
Sorry.
My apologies.
Is it 10? Is it 20? Is it 6?
No, I don't have that number. I can look it up really quick.
54 is the answer, Mr. Wilson says.
Oh, thank you.
Bingo.
54 full-time positions that are open,
Yes.
that are not police or fire, or not part of,
No, that's overall. Out of a workforce, 475, there's 54 that are currently unfilled.
Can we phone a friend over here and subtract what you guys know from your department?
Oh, he's gonna take his shoes off. This is gonna get tough.
8 sworn positions in the police department, 9 if you count, 8 sworn police officer positions. I have an open CSO, I would say roughly 12 positions in the police department alone.
12 from 54, okay. All right, Chief Jelnick, let's see your math skills. Okay,
We have 9 vacancies in fire, all sworn positions. So we're missing 1 firefighter,
so 20 positions, basically.
4 engineers, and 2 captains currently.
Okay, thank you. So we're talking about 20 positions roughly, right?
On a staff of 475 you had? Thank you.
But it's not just vacancies that this is going to affect. This is going to affect turnover and, job satisfaction, because Jesse, if I can turn this into a question,
That's awesome.
It's Jeopardy, right? I gotta ask any question.
What is?
Of the list that you sent to me the other day of other cities, can you just tick off which ones are local and which municipalities we are losing people to?
Yes, the local cities were Patterson, Modesto, Tracy, Elk Grove, and then the other ones are more northern, Sacramento, West Sacramento, Woodland, Menlo Park, and I can keep going.
Do you know?
Go ahead.
Do you know if those municipalities had remote access or work from home prior to COVID?
I can't speak for the cities, but when we met in April, they explained that this telework policy came into fruition during the pandemic.
So you wouldn't hire somebody and them not have an understanding of the culture of the what their job is and all that. They wouldn't just start on telecommunication, right? So it'd be a long time. So you're basically talking about right now, who could you that can do this job from home on occasion, really? If you're doing a pilot program, it's not gonna be somebody you're gonna hire. They may get the opportunity. But then what's that look like? So if we were gonna do a pilot program, would it be just engineering and payroll or whoever it was purchasing or somebody? And then try like 4 positions and see if it even works and where the safety factors are and then come back? I mean, look, we should probably be doing the opportunity for somebody, job share. I mean, if we're looking at opportunities to hire people, we really should make sure it's solid and that it works and then grow it. Just food for thought. What would it look like for you? What other departments could you use to just start it? I'm asking. It's a question.
Was that?
Hey.
So to answer your question, it would be determined by each department head to decide on which positions they feel would be eligible, and whether they determine, am I answering your question by small increments at first, at stages? Is that?
Well, I would be concerned if you hired, hey, I'm going to hire you.
Oh, yes.
And then tomorrow you're going to start at home,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, the policy does state that a new hire would wait 6 months.
And how long is the pilot program that you want?
How long is the pilot program?
1 year.
1 year.
So they may or may not even get it, but you're teasing them with the potential?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and open it to the public real quick. Ryan?
Yeah, I think this is a terrible idea. I went through COVID through school. I went through high school, and then I started my college career through going through online classes, and that was just terrible. Like, I had to do a group project online. 2 of my people wouldn't respond to me. 1 person would only respond through their school email and no other contact. And then my other person, thank you, he was able to at least give me his phone number, and we had the most communication out of everyone else. And this project ended up becoming a 2-person put it together. 5 people got full credit for it, which was just terrible. We complained to the professor, and of course the professor doesn't answer his email, so I don't think he ever saw it, and everyone got full credit for it. It was a great assignment, and it was fantastic. And I'm worried that yeah, it was chaos, and it was just terrible for everyone involved with it. And I'm worried that this is what's going to end up happening here. Staff are going to get hired, not do their job, or waste last minute to do it, or only respond to very narrow ways, like I only respond to you at 2:30, 2:35, I'm done. No more emails from me. And this is going to be a real situation potentially for people doing this online. And how else you can't contact them outside of their working hours, or they could maybe it takes them, they'd finish all their work by 2 and then they're still on the clock for 5. What are they doing for those 3 hours? They're just existing at home picking their nose, right? They could at least put them in the office here. They could do something there or have some kind of opportunity. But from my experience of doing things online, people just suck and it's not worth it. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Tell us about how people suck.
I have a more optimistic view of this. It is a pilot program. It is testing to see if this might work, but other cities are using it in our immediate area. So we already know it's being done. We also know that this is being done by private industry by millions of employees. So it isn't something new. As a matter of fact, for personal experience, I have a nephew who was doing that, and he was doing actually something for the entire United States. He worked for a major company in the United States, and he and one other person were handling an issue in this company at home. I know, for instance, that my son, but he's salaried, he's not working hour to hour, but he also has the right to get a day off a week. I mean, work a day at home.
Oh, whoops.
I better express that correctly. He can work at home for a day in a week. This is a pilot. It's only 1 or 2 days per week, and employees have requested, or potential employees have requested this. We've got to try something new. You know, I mean, we've got to be open-minded. What was I talking about on farmland? We've got to be open-minded about issues. We can't just say, okay, well, something happened that's bad, we can't do it. Be open-minded, look at what happens, try this out. The supervisors, we trust our supervisors. We know that they're good people. If they're not, they won't be here long. Well, that's a bad thing to say, but anyway. Anyway, I think this should be tried out, and I think we can see in 1 year's time what happens and what doesn't happen. Thank you.
Anybody else who want to speak on this from the public? Turlock Journal, you got something? Nothing. Okay. We'll close the public comment and bring it back for more dialogue.
Again, being old-fashioned. I have friends that have worked from home in various positions, and some are very productive, some of them aren't. I think that's human nature. I think that during COVID, it served its purpose. I think that a lot of industry is calling people back to the office because productivity is down. If we're going to run a pilot program, I would like to see something very specific with maybe 1 or 2 departments with 3 or 4 people with guidelines that can be monitored and graded to know that if it's working, and return on investment, exactly. I mean, we don't even, to have this thing going, and we've got an open-ended, we have no idea how many computers we're gonna need, we don't have any idea what the cost of it's gonna be just to get it up and running. So I have a hard time approving something when I have no idea what it's gonna cost.
I'm going to join you for the counterpoint on this. And perhaps this is a perspective as a millennial, that, I think one of the lasting lessons that we should carry forward from the pandemic is that work and communication and collaboration can happen not just specifically in one location. I think that as this pilot, we should try it, and I do think it's appropriate to test it out through all the different departments, because we need to have the data on, to Vice Mayor's point, what positions is this going to work for? What's one department doing well, and, what can we learn from other departments? I think that, we need to show that we have trust in our department heads, that they will implement this policy, and we're gonna know pretty fast if this is not working. But I'd like to defer to the expertise of our city manager and our department heads to lead their department and to implement something that is not only, to Mayor's point, that, yeah, we won't maybe get a new hire as part of this, but it's part of the recruitment process. It's definitely retention. Doesn't sound great to have 400 something employees, and we're saying 20 of them that are long yet to be filled. I think we need to try all of these things at hand and know that work needs to be based on deliverables and what you can, productivity when you're logging into that IT portal, and not necessarily a head in the office, a butt in the chair.
I guess I'm going to go back to being the baby boomer that I am. I just feel that we are a service industry, and people expect to see a face when they walk in the door and not have to call on the phone. I have a problem with not being around for people that need it. I think that we are a service industry and we need to serve the public. That's who pays our paychecks and that's who is our boss. And I just don't think people are going to appreciate people working from their home.
Yeah, I agree with that. There is, during the pandemic, that is where the bulk of these policies were born, was during the pandemic. And then companies like call centers, where you have an employee who sits with a headset and all they do is take call after call after call after call. These people are the ones that are staying on these telecommuting policies, and that's because the entities that they work for can monitor that productivity and they can keep a pulse on it. I think we are a public service entity, and when the public comes in here, no citizen wants to come down to City Hall and hear that, oh, Miss Dommy's not here today, she's telecommuting, you're gonna have to come back tomorrow. That's not for public service. I disagree with that, and I know Councilmember Bixel is correct. Employers are pulling back the telecommuting policies because they can't measure productivity. It's starting to cost money, and now that the pandemic has been declared to be over, I don't think this is the right play for Turlock.
All right, so, Mr. Wilson,
Yes, ma'am.
give us your plea. What do you want?
I was afraid you were gonna ask me that.
I know. I saw you push the chair back.
I personally think this is a policy that's worth exploring. I think it offers advantages to us that we would never know about if we hadn't done it and tried it. Because there are other cities around us that are doing it, I think we can continue to learn from them and find out what their mistakes are and what their victories are. I think the department heads here will take this very seriously. I think the executive team would like to see this as an opportunity to manage their people in a different way. I think the opportunity to establish work standards and whatnot for people working at home is the same as establishing work standards for people that show up to work every day. So, from my perspective, I think it's worth trying. I think the department directors will pay close attention to it and will give it the respect it deserves. And we will be glad to make sure that the council gets regular feedback on how things are going.
So I would tell you that I think a year is like ridiculous, and I could maybe consider like a 6 month process, but I also don't want you to do more than like probably one from each department if that's potential, just to see what that looks like. Now then, are we gonna get favoritism, who picked who? I don't wanna be a part of that part, but is that problematic? I mean, if we can find out what it looks like and where the hiccups are, and then come back after 6 months or something. I mean, a year seems ridiculous, because you can do a lot of harm in a year, right? And we need to be knowing what this looks like each month. Is it we're having issues, right? We want to hear. We don't want to hear which department and which person, but we need to know, hey, this isn't working out in this department or in some departments because blah blah blah. If we could get 3 votes out of this, which I don't know, I would see it wanting to be a very one time, let's see what it looks like kind of thing, so that we know what it looks like. But I don't know what the will of council is. I kind of can tell.
Well, I'm not totally anti. I would like specifics brought to us with, okay, we're going to do it with X amount of employees. We're going to need to spend this much money to have the pilot up and running.
Right.
First, okay, and then we figure out 6 months, a year, whatever is a reasonable timeline. And I think it obviously there's some departments that lend itself more than others. I think, you could figure out, or with the input of the rest of the team, executive team, to come up with a pilot program that is very structured, very reportable and manageable to truly get your results, rather than, well, let's try this. I think we need to have a plan so we know what we're biting off.
I would just say if we're going to consider this at a shorter time period, I really think that there is value in seeing it in each department, because, you know, there's individual factors of different jobs and different employees that it's gonna work better with some employees than others. So, you know, if we're gonna run this as an experiment, we can't like artificially limit our data set by what departments are eligible and what employees are eligible.
Well, we have to. I mean, we can't do police and fire, and risk management is one person. So right there, you've eliminated out of 10, 3. So, I mean, if we did 7 positions, each of them, but I kind of like what Kevin's saying about like, okay, why don't we stop it here? You come back with like, this is the cost of this. Because I don't want somebody to use their own computer, because we need to have access to the information. We need to know what's going on. And you know, what does it look like from the risk assessment of, okay, you know you have to shut off at 5. If 5:01, you go back on and then you sue us or you say, I want money, then we're done. Like, you have to, you give up your opportunity for the time at home.
I just don't want to experiment with the public's money.
I hear you. Okay. I mean, I know in engineering and IT, those are obvious, easy. There's probably in planning, those are things you can do at home.
Here's the other problem.
There's a lot of people do it from home.
I work with a lot of people that telecommute in this county.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And there's lots of people out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon grocery shopping and running errands. We can't track that. The directors can be as diligent as you want to be and as you all are. And yes, we trust you, but unless you're in somebody's house or you got cameras in their house and you're monitoring that from City Hall, you don't know what the employees are doing with the taxpayers' money. And I'm with Vice Mayor. I don't want to run an experiment with the taxpayers' money. If we put 50 people, or let's just say 30 people, 30 people out of a staff of 475, that's a $40,000 check just for laptops, right? How fast do laptops burn up? How fast does information technology update? We'll need new computers in 2 years, right? I mean, I could go on and on. I don't want to run an experiment.
Okay. Well, then what is the will? I can hear it being about two half.
But I'll bring it up for a vote.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for just it to be
What it is.
what it is?
Up or down, what it is.
Oh, goodness, okay. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
No.
Vice Mayor Franco?
No.
Councilmember Moniz?
No.
Mayor Bublak?
No. It does not pass with a 1-4 vote. Is there any other options? Okay, what's the motion?
I'm not sure if I'm alone in this, but I would like to bring back a specific proposal with X amount of employees, what it's gonna cost, with a time period that you feel is adequate to see if it works.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
No.
Councilmember Moniz?
No.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, it passes with the 3-2. We'll see it back at another time. Thank you for that. All right, Mr. Lord, did you have something coming up, or are you just gonna go to the bathroom? What's going on here?
He's next.
Welcome.
Can you fix her?
I can't even hear.
Huh? You're gonna approve policies and procedures?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, what do you wanna do?
All right, so just a brief presentation. So, Madam Mayor, members of the council, public, and staff, item 9C is a request to approve policies and procedures for providing insurance coverage to the city of Turlock. You may recall that back in April 25th of this year, we held public hearings to approve an ordinance that amended the Turlock Municipal Code Section 1601 titled Minimum Insurance Requirements. Those approved changes called for policies and procedures for providing insurance coverage to the city to be implemented and updated from time to time by resolution once the public hearing process was complete. Now that it's complete, I am bringing this forward to you for approval. As a reminder, minimum insurance coverages are required pursuant to municipal code when entering into a contract with the city, receiving a permit required by the municipal code, or using city property. The policies and procedures for your consideration tonight outline the types and minimum levels of insurance that are required, which are generally those provided for by the Central San Joaquin Valley Risk Management Authority through its risk matrix, which we are adding to the policies and procedures as an attachment. The Risk Management Authority is a joint powers authority in California that the city uses to manage its general liability program and to provide excess general liability insurance. Additionally, the policies and procedures require the types and minimum levels of insurance to be determined and reviewed prior to issuance of any public bidding documents. They also maintain guidelines for deductibles and self-insurance retentions, acceptability of insurance companies, and exceptions and waivers for minimum insurance requirements. That pretty much concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Questions for Director Lohr and his staff?
I'm his only staff.
All right, nothing?
Motion to approve.
Well, I'm sorry, hold on.
We gotta let the public speak.
That was quick. I'm gonna open it to the public now. Anyone wishing to ask a question regarding this? All right, we will close public comment, and
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please. Good.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, it passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Moreno. Adopting the City of Turlock fiscal year 2023-24 general and non-general fund budgets. We're gonna go line by line.
No, they're not.
He's like, oh my God, no.
Not again. Right?
George doesn't want to hear it.
Line by line.
Yeah. I'm out.
That's because you got a piece in there too, this budget, so.
Right.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Today is the conclusion of our budget process. We've had three from our prior meetings, at different dates where we had different topics, it's looking at forecast revenues, our current expenditures, what our growth factors look like, economic outlook, things of those natures. We talked about the general fund and non-general fund. So today's the conclusion. We will not go line by line this today because we will be here for a long time. So today's really just a recap of what you've seen. As you know, through the budget process, we're continually molding this document until we come to a conclusion, scrubbing it as much as we can so we can make sure we catch everything. So we have a clean overall budget. So you did have some transactions that were added and subtracted within the budget just to get it where we need to be. These transactions were still, the general fund is still whole. It is still fully balanced, and so going into the next fiscal year, we will look to conclude that as well as we've done in the past. So one of those changes where we have a full-time backcourt coordinator that was added. This was just a clerical error in the sense of the way this was approved, the position in January of 2023. So there's not something that was new or added. It would just need to be added back to the list and to conclusion to clean it up. We talked heavily about Fund 405 building and Fund 502 and engineering. We will be moving forward with this process. What we'd like to do is actually get a true year-end calculation on what that expenditure is going to look like so we can roll it all together and fold it up and give you a true clean number, right? We talked about expectation. We talked about what the end is going to look like. This is a more cleaner look. It's more of, okay, we're going to do this. Let's get the true number so council can see the whole thing. So we will bring it back at mid-year and have that full conversation on what the numbers actually concluded to be. We did close the gap with the missing position by utilizing Measure A, so we did bring some of those funds in, again, to balance it out. In the fiscal year, we have a negative balance in Measure A, but this is a transaction that was actually approved through outside of the budget process for the fire stations for the roofs for $211,000. So although it is a negative negative balance going into the budget year. That item was actually identified as a reserve action, not as a current year expenditure. For financial reasons, we just have to reflect in that nature. So yes, we have a negative, but we expect to utilize reserves. That's why it's in that nature. We do have a cleanup item as well in this accessory agency, Fund 625. Again, really just a typo in the sense of the way. So we brought it back up to the number of what it's supposed to be, about 250,000. So that concludes the changes throughout the funds that we've seen. The remaining document itself stays whole, and we have a general fund balance. So thank you to council for working through this process with me. The rest of the directors, this is a long process. Finance does not do it by itself. It is strongly a team effort with the city manager to get this done. So thank you.
And Nadine.
And Nadine.
Little numbers nuts in the back. All right, questions for the director? Yeah, page 1. No, we'll go ahead and open it to the public.
Hey, I'll go through it. You know I will.
I know you will. And Nadine's like, yes. So open it to public. Anyone wishing to speak on this? Go ahead.
Just thank you for the hard work you did. I was here when you went over it, and you did a great job, and I'm glad to see you have another balanced budget, so thank you for that.
Anybody else? All right, we will close the public time and bring it back for
Move to approve.
a motion
Second.
and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Pixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Monette?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes. 5-0.
Thank you.
We're trying to fix her.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. All right, Mr. Goodman, tell us about the SRWA. Tell us about these positions. Yeah, they're all working. They're hacking the water system for us from home.
Mayor, council members, and
Aloha.
citizens of Turlock. Thank you. So, this item, I don't want to spend too much time on it. Hopefully, you've had a chance to look it over, and I know we did receive some questions from council members about this item. Just a little recap. We started working on recruitment for SRWA back in October of last fall. So we've been at this a long time. In that time, of course, there were a lot of steps that went along the way. We had to actually get an agreement in place so that we could manage and operate the plant. And that didn't happen until near the end of January. And so we didn't really start bringing people on board until the end of January. And we've been mostly successful in our endeavors. Excuse me, there are 15 positions, and we have 10 of them filled. We've struggled with one job description, and that is the senior plant operator position. We have to have 5 of them in order to run this plant 24/7, which is what we want to do. The plant was built to deliver 15 million gallons of water per day. 10 million of that would come to the city of Turlock. This is really kind of water insurance for the city for many generations to come. And so it's really important that we be able to do this. So we've struggled filling these last 5 positions, senior operator positions. And part of the reason is because the certification requirement is so high. The other part is because the competition for these people is very stiff. And we're not competing just with other municipalities. We're competing with every water provider in the state for the same group of people. So the competition is very stiff. The police department has gone through the same issue in trying to hire people, and so they had to get creative and say, how can we get these positions filled so that we can do our job? And what they came up with was a model that we have chosen to employ in bringing this to you, and that was to provide signing bonuses or hiring bonuses to people who would come on board. And so we're using that same model. We're not quite as lavish as the police department, but we don't have all the money the police department has. Wow. So we're
shots fired.
Anyway, back to business. So before I get run out of here at gunpoint. So we want to use that same model, and that is that we offer a bonus that is paid out in 3 parts. And so the first part would be paid out at signing, and then a year later, when they complete their probation, then they get the second third, and then when they complete a 3-year term with the city, they get the final installment of that. The amount would vary depending on the level of the employee, and we're looking not just at this as something that can help us recruit, but we're also looking at retention. This will help us retain people. If we gave them the full amount right up front, we get them to sign, they work for 6 months, a year, and then they move somewhere else. We need them to stay and work for us. We feel like this is going to help us in this endeavor to get these positions filled. It's critical that we get them filled soon, because the plant, although it's still under construction, it's not going to be under construction forever, fingers crossed. So we do need to get these positions filled, and this is the next step that we feel we should try and take so that we can get these positions filled and be ready for the training that's going to happen and be ready for the startup at the plant later in the fall. With that, there's an amount, an amount of $88,500. It's important that you understand that isn't for 1 year. That's for the 3-year program for these positions, assuming that all these people will fill these positions, and so in this year's budget, we wouldn't be spending that much money. So we would be spending roughly a third of that. And with that, of course, what we're asking for is for the council to authorize the city manager to be able to offer those signing bonuses to people that we're recruiting. And then now I'll answer any questions you have.
Questions from the director?
Actually, question for Finance Director Marino. We have this in our SRWA budget.
We do, in the sense that we have the salary line item, that's where it'll be allocated. We have unfilled positions, so therefore we do have the revenues or the expenditures budgeted to take on this expense. In addition, it's tiered into 3 years, so it is smaller increments. Overall, just spread over 3 years.
Okay, but we have the
Yes, we do.
ability to pay it in SRWA.
We do.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Seeing as it's so difficult to hire for these senior positions, and like you say, we're fighting for the same pool of employees here. Can you speak a little bit to for the positions that are at lower tiers in the hierarchy of this, what are we planning for succession planning for these senior positions, and how can we be working toward that too?
That is a great question, and that is something we are looking at and considering. We actually have we will already be building senior operators with the junior operators that we've hired. So as the plant opens up and these people start to accrue hours towards certification, the higher certifications, and they take the tests and get those certifications, then they can become our senior operators. So but what we need right now is to get these 5 positions filled so we can start up the plant. These people can start accruing hours and learning how to actually operate a plant. We have actually, it's almost like a farm league team. It's in our own water, our water utility, the people who work in the field. These people are able to get not only their treatment certifications, so all of them have water treatment 1 and maybe a distribution 1, but over time they can get their treatment 2 and even a treatment 3 certification, and a distribution 2 and a distribution 3, but what they don't have is time in a plant. So they have the certifications that they need to be a senior operator, but no plant time. So they actually need to go in. And we've moved some people over already. Some of those junior positions, 3 of them have been filled by our own people from our water division. So that is going to continue to happen. Carlos isn't happy about that he's going to be recruiting forever, but that's just the nature of the beast. And so we feel like that's going to provide for us in the future. But what we're concerned about right now is how do we get this plant open and running and delivering water to us.
Any other questions?
I just have one question. So what's the effective date if the council were to approve this? This is just for new hires, right?
No, it's not. We're looking at it, because we're looking at it as a method of retaining people. We want to keep the other senior personnel that we have, and that's our senior instrument technician, our senior mechanic, the plant manager, and the operations supervisor. Those four positions, in addition to the 5, we are looking at retroactively giving them the bonuses as well. So the first installment of the bonuses for those people. Those are key people. We can't afford to have them go away after 6 months or a year. In fact, we already lost one. We had an operations supervisor on board. Then we hired the plant manager. He left and went and took her old job back at MID. And so where we thought we were going to have a senior operator, that senior operator is now our supervisor.
And they would have stayed if they'd had the bonus?
Probably.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Okay.
We don't,
Well,
there's no
and
way
I
to
don't
know
want to
for sure.
speculate, but I'm confused. I mean, are we talking about a signing bonus or a retention program? Because those are
It's
two
both.
different things.
It's going to be both, because you're giving them part of the money up front, a third. That's your signing bonus. The retention bonus is for, part of it is for staying here for 3 years. So they get part of it up front, they get part of it when they actually complete their probation. If they don't complete probation, they don't get any more money, and they don't stay employed. But if they do, they get money at probation, at the end of probation, and then they get more money at the end of the 3 years. So we've then retained them for 3 years.
So the people that are already here, if they're not at a 3-year, then they could achieve that. Or you saying they get everything retro?
Well, nobody's been here more than about 4 months.
Okay,
And so we're only 4 months past when they actually hired.
right.
The program wasn't available at that time.
Yeah, even our current employees are new hires for the SRWA, correct?
Yes. Any other question?
Other questions?
Well, it sounds to me that like we're not paying our people enough. I mean, I don't mean to be a smart aleck about that, but what's the long-term plan? I mean, I don't know if
Well, long-term, I know that we're doing a class and comp study. That is already underway. So the outcome of that will help us determine whether or not where we should be. Are we where we should be? Do we need to increase? That's the whole purpose. Classifying every position, making sure we understand what it is and what it does, and making sure that, and then we're making sure the compensation is appropriate. So that's one of the things we're doing long term. We may need to. There are probably a number of things we may have to do, but
I just, like Ms. Menez said, to me, sign-on bonus and this new hires, and then it sounds like we're backdooring it to people that are already here, and I didn't quite understand that.
again, the purpose of that is just to retain, make it fair for those people as well, so they don't feel like they lost out because they hired on too soon.
Yeah.
But they're being treated fairly.
And it's 2/3. We pay 2/3 of the full cost into SRWA, correct?
That is correct.
Let's open it to the public. Go ahead.
Okay, I've got to be nice about this, but I think I told you about this. I told you this could happen. We didn't have to take this over. The SRWA was all ready to do everything that we're trying to do, but we were going to save $800,000. So we decided we would do it. Now we're getting into a jam. We can't get it done, or it doesn't look like we're getting it done. What are we going to be doing here? I mean, are we going to have water that won't even pass? We'll have to bring in truckloads of water because our water's not pure enough. We have the responsibilities of the city. We didn't have to take on the SRWA responsibilities. They already had a team that was working on this. And there were 2 people on this council who were fighting them constantly. You're trying to save money, and what you're doing, you're ending up spending more money and you're not getting the product that you want. We want a clean water. We want clean water. We can't live without clean water. We can be poisoning ourselves. We are with our 123 TCP. And we could have gotten a rebate from Shell Oil and from Dow. We didn't even pursue it. We're just not thinking ahead. You've got to think ahead. You've got to be open-minded. You're trying to save $1 and you're going to be spending $10 to try to save $1. I mean, you know, you need to be thinking about these things. I'm glad that Mr. Wilson's here now. I hope he's going to hold this down, because for a long time we had a council that was out of control and they made a lot of mistakes in this city and they did a lot of things that weren't good for this city. And now we're paying for that, and I'm sorry to see that. I hope it can be changed. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, let's close the public comment and bring it back.
May I say something, Mayor?
Please.
Yes, we probably won't save $850,000. We will probably only save $800,000 per year. But I
And
think
that's to the ratepayers.
it's probably worth it to save the $800,000. So.
All right, so, what is the will?
Move to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Bixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
No.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, it passes 4-1, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item up, approving the purchase of a concession building, storage building, restroom, blah, 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 and Eric, yep.
Okay, well, good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council, citizens who waited till the end here for it. I want to thank you guys. This is an exciting council item for me. It's been a while coming since we've had a real update to the Columbia Pool project. And there's 3 resolutions here. 2 of them have some commonality, so I'm going to take those 2 first, and we'll circle back around to the TID grant. The first resolution is approving the purchase of 1 concession building, 1 storage building, and 1 restroom building from Public Restroom Company in amount not to exceed $1,973,898.52, which includes a 5% contingency plus taxes. And up here we have some floor plans of what we have going on here. So let me see if I can get us to advance. This first one, this is our concession stand, so you can see in the front here. Customers will come in the front. That first window is where they'll pay. The concessions will be on the other side. The larger portion of the building, it'll be a lifeguard break room. There's also an office there that'll be shared by the pool managers and also by the maintenance staff who will be working out there. This building will, as you can see, it's made out of concrete block, so it's very sturdy. And the next building we have here, this is the supply building. It has a large roll-up door. This is where we'll keep all the supplies that we need. The roll-up door is important because the pool's going to be heated and have an extremely large cover that's going to come with it, and we're going to be able to get the cover into that rolling door to make sure that we have space to store that. And the last one is our restroom facilities. You can see they're really nice. They're not what you've probably seen in a lot of places. You'll see we have 4 of the ADA ones. They'll have a bench, changing station, sink, and a restroom. And then the other 3 are unisex, and they also have a bench, changing station, a sink, and a toilet. All very nice facilities. And now that I'll move on, well, these, real quick, these restrooms that are coming, these 3 buildings that are coming, they're going to come prefabricated. They're going to come totally built. They'll be dropped off to manufacturers. Will do the install. What this allows us to do the project is make sure that the project is ready. We have all the plumbing done. It's all piped in, and they'll come and they'll set those down. The next item, we'll go over to the second resolution, which is approving 1 pool pump and chemical building from Romtech in the amount not to exceed $112,853.26, which includes a contingency of 5% plus estimated tax and This building, this is not what it's going to look like, because this building's a little bit different than the other ones. This is going to be delivered to us in parts. The purpose of that is it's going to have to go over the pool pump in the chemical area. So it will be built around those. Those will already be in place. This building will be built by the contractor, will receive the materials, check them off, and then they will build that building. And one of the reasons we went with two different companies is Romtech is the only one that comes that's not totally pre-built, and it doesn't have a floor, which we can't have a floor because this will be built over the equipment that we need in that area. All four of these buildings will be purchased out of Fund 301, capital improvements, and staff is asking to do this without the compliance to the formal construction repair improvements. And this is allowed in the Turlock Municipal Code 2-7-08 B5. And staff, this allows staff to directly purchase from companies that are part of a cooperative purchasing agreement that have been solicited and awarded on a competitive basis. Sourcewell, who we're using for this, is a self-sustaining government organization which serves over 50,000 government, education, and nonprofit organizations with cooperative purchasing program that manages competitively solicited cooperative contracts for a wide array of products and services. Once a contract is awarded by Sourcewell, local agencies can directly purchase from the vendor. Sourcewell, when they did the RFP for the restrooms, they had seven different qualified bidders that bid on the project. They have a ton of buying power just because of the size of them, so they get a lot of people who turn out for the bidding project. Our two contractors that we're choosing are the second and the third. The first one, the Public Restroom Company, we chose them as they were rated second, but we chose them specifically because they allowed us to customize the restrooms and all the other buildings. The company that came in first did not allow that. They just had like 4 different buildings that you can buy that weren't customizable. So having the ability to build those facilities the way we wanted was a big deal, especially in the restrooms and for the supply building where we had the roll-up door. And then Romtech, we chose that one. We talked about that a little bit earlier because it didn't have the floor and it was something that we could build at that time. By using Sourcewell, it saves staff 2 to 3 months from going through our own RFP process. So these are publicly bid and they're used by tons of different agencies. In the past, we currently have three restrooms in our parks, different parks, that came from the restroom company. We bid those separately. We did RFPs. They're old. They've been around for a long time. One of them was 2005. We bid those separately, and the Public Restroom Company got those bids. So we know they're accurate. The bids for the 3 buildings actually came in under $300,000 under the engineer's estimate. So we feel like we're getting a pretty decent deal on that. And now then I will move on to the third resolution, which is authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with Turlock Irrigation District for the acceptance of $197,264 in grant funds and appropriating the funds into Fund 301 for capital improvements. This is a grant that we got through TID. I want to thank Randall Jones, our engineer, who's actually working on this project and wrote this grant. He submitted this grant back in April of 2023. We were awarded it on June 2nd of this month. And this is for the improvements. And they based the funding on calculations on the estimate energy savings yielded by the new facility components, such as the air conditioner units, lighting, pool pumps, compared to previously old infrastructure that we had in the old building. With that, I will be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, pool.
Eric, I have to ask because there's been so much misinformation about Columbia Pool that's been put out on the internet lately. The money that we're allocating tonight, it's already in our original price tag,
It's already in
correct?
my budget, correct.
It's already allocated for, so this is not in addition to what we've already funded for Columbia Pool.
No. And like I said, the 3 buildings came in $300,000 under the engineering estimate, so.
Yeah, you guys did a great job on that.
There's a heavy cost, but you're looking at what we're gonna get for the product. The ones we have in the park, some of them are 20 years old. We've never had any repairs on them. They're built to withstand public use. So I mean, I think it's a good deal for us to move forward.
And if I could just put you on the spot, do you
Please.
know the start date?
When's the pool opens? What's your?
No, I don't want to know when the pool's open. I want to
All
know
right.
when the construction's gonna start.
I was gonna
so that
hold
my
off because
people
I
know it's
don't
real.
want this to to sway your guys' decision, but if this is approved as it is today, hey, she asked for it, right? I wasn't gonna volunteer
I
it.
need a hostage negotiator right now.
But if it was approved, we would advertise the bids on July 28th. We'd open the bids August 25th, awarded at council meeting on September 26th, start construction in December, and open to the pool would be 5/1/2024, and there's a buffer built into that timeline.
I am so glad the Turlock Journal is in the house tonight. Did you get all that?
No, he was asleep.
That's all I got. Thank you. Good job. Thank you.
I-
Good job.
I'll let Randall know, he did all the work.
Yes, he
He's
did
been-
too.
He's been doing a good job on that.
Any other questions for Director? Mr. Wilson, did you want to say anything?
I would only say that this has been a successful project to date, and going forward, it's going to be very successful too. And next summer, the kids in the west side will have a place to swim.
Yes.
Let's open it to the public. Anyone wishing to go for a swim? Come on.
Ryan, be careful.
No, I love this. I'm just a little confused though. We're getting all these buildings, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that was my confusion, and I love this. I used to play on water polo for Pittman High School, so I'm super excited to have that pool reopen again. So I'm big supporter. Vote yes, please. That's all.
Thank you, Ryan.
Anyone else? All right, we'll close the public comment. Oh, geez. Oh,
no.
It's
The
a little
cloud.
late. I know, but I'm gonna use the attorney's prerogative. It's a little late for a legal point, so I'll make it quick. You know, I'm slow sometimes because I've been here long enough now to know better, but I don't, and I'm glad Director Schultz went on about how it was selected and what process is used, and there is a public process for that, because we put on our agendas that, you know, we're not without compliance with the formal bid procedure, right, pursuant to the code section. And while that's technically correct, that we're not engaging, as Director Schultz said, in an independent, city-based bidding process that you're used to with RFPs and things like that, it's a public process that is gone through that saves the staff resources that you heard. So that's just a long-winded way of saying I'm, you know, it'd be on my aspirational list maybe to tinker with the agenda language, you know, because I think it leaves the wrong impression. You know, we're actually doing something pursuant to a code section, allowing the use of these source well contracts instead of a separate city bidding process. So anyway, that's all.
thank you for the cleanup.
Yep, had to say something tonight.
I have a couple comments. I agree that there's been an awful lot of conversation out on social media. I just want to make a couple of things kind of clear to the public. You know, these structures are not like your house or a garage that you would build on your own property. These structures are built to last for a lot of years, and they are concrete block. They are built to last. Kids beating them up, and you know, kids beat these things to shreds. Prevailing wage, we have to pay prevailing wage because we're a municipality. That's one of the cost factors in this thing. Yeah, it's gonna cost more than a standard home building project because we're the city of Turlock and we get to pay more. These things are built to last. And look at the, like Director Schultz said, look at the current buildings out there. They've been there for 50 years and they're still,
Yeah, the Yerby Center is built out of the same.
yeah, and they're still
Concrete block.
standing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yes, they're expensive, but they will last, and the kids deserve it.
And I want to thank Director Sims and City Manager Wilson going out and meeting with, I think it was February, talking to TID. Thank you to TID for following up with all these things for us. They've got money there, and they wanted to support some big things as well as some smaller things. Some people didn't submit smaller things, but this is a huge one. Is there a motion there, young lady?
To approve all three.
Oh, wow. I think there's four.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
And a third.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Abram?
Yes.
Councilmember Pixel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Franco?
Yes.
Councilmember Moniz?
Yes.
Mayor Bublak?
Yes, it passes 5-0. Thank you all.
Thank you,
City
council.
City manager updates?
I don't have anything specific to bring up tonight.
Okay. Council items for future consideration. I would like to ask that once a month, oh, time's up, you're done, we're all done, everybody go home. I would ask that the ad hocs at once a month have an agenda item, like the second of each time or whatever, so that we can have those two updating what's going on. And then council member questions, comments, and announcements. Council members?
First of all, let me send my, and I hate using the term thoughts and prayers, but please, to the Dueling family, know that you are absolutely prayed for and that you are absolutely cried over for your loss, and it's tragic. On a little other note, Turlock took first place in the bike month contest for agencies between the numbers of 200 and 499 staff members. Our very own mayor got second place for riding her bike.
And who got first?
Mr. Becker took
fire.
first place, and Mr.
baby.
Fleming took third place.
All
So,
right.
next year we'll be up on our riding a little more. We'll get a little more involved and see if we can set some records. And third Thursdays, that's this Thursday, starting that's June 15th. Music at music, food, and fun at the sports complex. So everybody come out and see it. And then one more little announcement is that our mayor took first place, double gold in javelin and shot put in the national
U.S.
It's the U.S. Police Fire Olympics. So she moves on to the internationals now. So she'll have to tell you a little bit more about that, but we have a double gold medal winner.
Congrats, Mayor. Okay, so I totally have to out her because she deserves it. She thought she had this bike riding thing in the bag, and then Becker came and blew her out of the water. You know, I just had to laugh at, and then Becker had an accident. I'm very sorry for that.
I didn't do it.
Hey, we're so proud. He brought it home for Turlock. Good job to Fire.
We're just happy we got all his miles before he got in his bike accident
Right?
the week after.
I have an alibi. I was not part of this.
He's healing really well at home, by the way. He appreciates all the thoughts.
Dang. Thanks for that. Nice. I want to just let you know that Director Moreno and City Manager Wilson and I went to Sacramento recently and lobbied for money for SRWA, and I believe there's some opportunities there. There are definitely some earmark opportunities. We're not giving up. We know that everything went exponentially higher. As you learned, the chemicals are 100% increase, which is like ridiculous, but we've got to do it because we've got to have clean water. Now, no longer affordable, but clean water. So anyway, thank you guys for being a part of that. And we have a closed session.
Okay, we have a closed session, item A, conference with labor negotiators. Agency designated representative is Deputy City Manager Sarah Eddy, and employee organizations are Turlock Management Association Public Safety and Turlock Firefighters Association Local 2434.
Thank you. All right, we will report out should there be something. Thank you. Thumb? All right, we are back and we have nothing to disclose. Nothing happened. Have a great night. We'll see you in 2 weeks.